Okay, so here we are at Tanto Monta. We finished one turn. We have all the setup for turn 2 left to do. Cards aren't shuffled in, etc. Resources not placed, all that stuff. What has happened? All right, let's look one at a time for the powers in initiative order, whatever they call it. The Muslim powers. So the North Africans are trying to hold out. The Portuguese are hitting them pretty hard down here, and they're trying to hold out against that. I cheated with the Nazarids and allowed them to attack Gibraltar, which they should not have been able to do. I've rectified that. It didn't actually succeed in doing anything except wasting some of their capabilities. I rectified that by removing the war that they shouldn't have been able to declare through a free card and whatever, and returning to peace with Castile. They're not allowed to go to war with Castile until a particular card comes out. I made an error. Life is. For the Portuguese, their main effort had been down here in North Africa. They were supporting the Beltranejos and grabbed Seville, and they did some exploration, but not as effective as one might hope. For the Spaniards, a little bit of reinforcement and movement capturing some of the Canaries. Castile largely holding out against the Beltranejos, not really gaining much there. The Catalans, though, have been wiped out, and we gained control of Naples as a minor power. I don't remember whose doing that was. Probably an event, but it might have been like a Muslim triggered event. For the French, largely a failed turn. Although we managed to hold on to the new Pope, Sixtus IV, and definitely through Muslim intervention, we got control of Venice. We lost the Catalan territories, getting our victory points from that and whatnot. We did some work to try to improve our income, as it were, in the game by boosting these markers. And this is going to be kind of confusing. The +1 markers here, I've captured a couple of these, but they look like they're in the same place as the ones that I haven't done anything in. But that's going to give me more chances of getting cards each turn. I made an attempt on Metz. Sieges are hard in this game, and I failed and didn't have anywhere near enough forces to take it. And then on top of that, Maximilian came down and drove me out. So there's actually a larger force here at this point than there was to begin with. Of course, that means I get to fight a field battle against them first, and I might wipe them out if I have a big enough, good enough army, but that doesn't look too likely. So I think Metz is out of our reach at this point. I don't know what is in our reach. We're at war with Spain still. The Portuguese alliance has expired. They expire at the end of every turn. We might make it again. We might go to peace with Spain. I think we're allowed to get one of our pieces on this turn, the piece of Barcelona. I think we're allowed to trigger that. But the problem is, one of the ways of triggering it gives stuff to the Spaniards. Both of them give stuff to the Spaniards. One of them gives them territory that I might hold, like in Roussillon, I think, which I don't want to do. And another one gives them resources and or cards, which I don't particularly want to do, but I want to get the treaty out of the way. There is a potential advantage if I could link up with the Portuguese here at Burgos, but that looks like a lot of work to get a couple of victory points, whereas there's sort of a continual victory point source in Italy. A lot of this game is focused, well, a lot of France's efforts should probably be focused on the Italian wars, I'm guessing. Their desire elsewhere, look, you know, they're interested in Navarre, they're interested in the Roussillon area, but there's not a real desire to go smack the Spaniards or anything like that. All right, so that's pretty much where we are. I guess I'm gonna go back down and watch some video. I'm watching stuff on the SS Britannia, I think it is. One of the first larger ocean liners, you know, pre-Titanic and all that, 1850s and onward, the steam sail combination and whatnot. I don't know. You know, it's a pretty day. The idea of like going out for a walk should appeal to me, but it's just so hard on me now. It just really is. It's like, I don't know. I've grown so indolent. So the first thing in the card draw phase is add leaders and naval units. And if this is turn 4, the Tlemcen Berbers. Okay. I know about the Berbers coming in. That's cool. I don't know about leaders and naval units. Do they just mean coming off the return chart? I'm assuming that, because there is no chart that tells you, you know, add Caesar Borgia. Now, I know he's going to be on a card, but Charles and Louis, they're going to probably come in on a crown, on a card from a crown. Barbarossa is definitely going to come in from a card. I don't see other leaders available other than the neutrals. So I think it's just returning the leaders that are on there. That's the best I can offer on that. Mistaken I was. There is actually a chart of them listed here for the leaders to come in and leave. Cool. Mainly, they're removals and whatnot. I assume when somebody's removed on the other side, they'll have something. I'm getting Tremoille here, and I wanted to see where I get him. You know, home port under, that's naval units. Where's army leaders? Okay. New army leaders, or those removed from the turn tracker, put in controlled home space in this priority order. Key fortress strategic space. I have to do it in order. That kind of sucks, because I would love to have them there at the fortress, but I got to put them at a key first, and I have keys without leaders, so hey, what's up with this guy? Okay, he's in a fortress. I didn't have any other leaders coming in. Turn 3 is the first turn where that happens. Marriage candidates don't happen. So nothing exciting happens here. The next thing, suitors and children. Add a fortress marker to each player card if there's one missing. So the 2 that you have available to play per turn, only one gets recharged each turn. You may have misled about that. But nobody built a fortress, so we don't have to worry about that. The Metsta marker. What do we do with that? We roll a die to see where the Spanish have to get their stuff to. And the main space will be Talavera. Kind of know where that is. Oh, that's going to be hard to deal with. Right now I do have a pathway to a couple of the ports. Okay. Let's keep going down here. Receive home cards for the turn and award the Papal Bull. Papal Bull's going there. Home cards. Fuck. That's these under there. The next thing that's going to happen is we add the new cards to the deck, the turn 2 cards. shuffle it, and then figure out the deal. I want to comment on, it's a pretty big deck. We didn't go through, we drew less than half the cards last turn. We're getting another load about the same size as what we used up last turn. Nothing's, gone or whatever, and I believe you reshuffle everything together. Let's just check this. New cards are added, the deck is then shuffled, as described in 6.2. I'm not positive of this, but anyway, what it means, if this is the case, and I believe this is that you're not going to see a lot of these events, essentially. Now, some of them, obviously the mandatories are going to happen, but some of them are things that historically happen, but they just may not. I don't know how large a percentage of things that didn't historically happen are in the deck, the might-haves, in terms of, this is a hard thing to look at or to consider, is there should be about as many interesting things that almost happened but didn't quite or whatever, as there are things that did happen. Now, it's hard to talk about because that, for example, I think did happen, but some of these others, it's more questionable. Like maritime technology, any power can get that. But I do feel like you're playing in a fairly random situation, which I like. I think that's to the best in event-driven games, CDGs or otherwise. I'm always kind of disturbed when, all the think about something like a Twilight Struggle or something. All the events kind of come out, and you're going to get a chance at least to trigger them all. It's very nice, single big deck that all players share. That's one of the mechanisms that I really like about the Here I Stand basis, which is there may not be a reason to trigger certain events. So certain things that happened may not. But it only kind of works if there's also things that almost happened in the deck. Anyway, we were going to look up, what was it? It talks to me about 6.2. And again, we got to look this stuff up. I'll get familiar with it. After a card is played, it is removed. Discard pile. All cards in the discard are reincorporated into the deck, yeah. So there's going to be a fair amount of shuffling in order to make sure that the new cards don't end up, all squished together or whatever. And again, the armored cards, they take wear and tear less well than the more flexible cards that most companies use and that GMT uses on their sort of lower tier games. Like, they seem to use these on the games that they think are going to be the best received, etc. And they view them as an advantage. Now, they've changed, and I don't know if it was me and other people complaining about, using glossy paper. They've changed to real paper that you can write on, with a pencil and put notes in. That's helpful. Somewhere along the line, we got to convince them to stop making these damn armored cards. I'll live with the dice, although I would much prefer smaller dice and maybe twice as many or something, because I'm not able to play the game with the dice they give me in this buckets of dice game. And honestly, these are beautiful dice. They really are. But it would be much cooler, Now, it doesn't really matter for me. I'm going to dredge up all my dice, etc. And what I'd prefer most is if these were these nice high impact these nice high impact dice with the rounded corners and everything, but were smaller. Those are my most treasured gaming dice. But I wouldn't use, I would much rather the same number of smaller dice, like I have. I don't know. I have here's all my. I have this thing, and I have a fair number of these. I could probably be using them for it, but these are easier to cope with when I want to pull out a bunch of dice at once, and I know that I will not run out of given colors, etc. But yeah, I mean, it would be great if there were twice as many dice and they were those quality. I would be happier if it was the same number in those quality. But that's a decision that, doesn't really affect much because I think I'm going to be, I think no matter what, I'd be pulling a whole bunch of dice out of somewhere else, just like I would with a game of Titan or whatever. But these cards, man, they're too fragile. And, they chip up and whatnot, and they're harder to shuffle. They have absolutely no advantages going for them. All right, let me get to shuffling, and I'll swap batteries. Before I get to that, again, it's kind of pretty out. But one of the problems is, first of all, it's obviously, cloudy and whatnot. No problem with that. But one of the problems is rain is predicted. Like, I look on my thing and it says it's going to rain today. And I don't get an hour by hour breakdown unless I click further or whatever, and I'm just too lazy to do that, I guess. I also kind of just know that I won't enjoy going for a walk as much as I should. But yeah, I just, at least I'm getting some gameplay, right? It's also really hard to shuffle. Like, to the extent that a big clump of cards falls all at once or holds off or whatever. And also I had them squirt out onto the floor. Just all kind of stupid shit happened. Okay, now I'm counting up the cards for each player, and I got problems here. I'm putting the charisma everywhere. Spain and France, unfortunately, they're under the special rules for those countries instead of being embedded here where, you kind of look this up. Why do I put the numbers on there? Because I like to deal the cards out, not just hand somebody a single packet of 4 consecutive cards. Feel like by dealing them out, I'm getting a little bit more shuffle out of it. I, did about a dozen shuffles there. But I have this +1 card here. I don't know what the fuck that's from. I know it was part of my setup. Now I gotta go look up, why do I have that? I don't know the answer. Turns out that Roussillon card for France is part of their noble alignment card. Oddly enough. So I don't even think this should be here. Because it's part of this whole system here, but it's problematic and it's a pain in the ass. So, foie, I don't have anything for. For the houses, so the Spaniards got like 2 extra cards off Aragon, plus the Aragonese get a free card as well. Wait, no, that 2 includes the Aragonese card. So they've only got a total of 6 cards coming in. Plus, they had 2 reserved, plus 3 home cards, 2 of which they can use. So they've got a big hand compared to everyone else again. I think that's going to be the case throughout the game, although France may end up growing in power. So now what do? I'm going to be rolling somewhere it tells me it's got to be above here. Card. See, it's here we got examples, so it must be saying it. Yeah, we're gonna roll a die. Yeah, so for these houses, so this is going to be a 1 through 5, this is going to be a 1, this can't get anything, this will be a 1 through 5. I'll come back with that. But the thing with Roussillon is, if France has fewer than 3 houses at level 5, I have 1, 2, fewer than 3. Okay, I'll keep this +1 for now. I'll probably have to look it up again. Like, there should be something for Roussillon. There really should be. Maybe included here or something. I don't know. I'll come back after I generate my point. 2 more cards from the French, from their 5-pointers, I guess. And Roussillon was already counted in. So I get 6 cards as well. Now I'm starting with no admin rating of cards. Only 2 home cards because I lost 1, but I did gain 1. So I'm okay on that. And the Papal Bull. So I'm a little behind Spain, but again, France is the next major power. Now I'll start dealing out, and I'll deal out 4 cards to everyone, give the Muslims their cards, deal out a 5th card to everyone, give Portugal theirs, etc. That's just how I like to do it. Resources put back in their cups, and then I drew the 2 caravan resources. There are no settlements yet, so no additional. A lot of powers started out with resources available in the game. But we got something else here. Okay, Hugh Rogers. Oh, fuck. I believe he's gone. I believe he does not count as a prisoner any longer. And we got nothing on the other side. So, because all Catalan units got removed, right? Did that include leaders? How is that worded? I mean, nobody's going to take him back. Oh, where is this? This is in the surrender rules. How is it worded? Remove all Catalan units, including their leader, including the leader Anjou. I'm guessing that also includes Hugh Roger, because this is important. Because back here. Yeah, we had to go to the main rules again and away from the nation-specific for this. For each leader still in your dungeon, draw a CP resource. If it's a non-CP award, return it to the reserve and add another until you receive a resource. Return to the reserve, I think, means it's not discarded, but again, I'm just going to draw. Okay, Muslims have none. Portuguese have 1 that we captured. And we just keep drawing. You might be able to see what I'm drawing. I cannot. And these are naval, right? It's not clear. I believe they are. Well, this is just fantastic, isn't it? There we go. So there's the Portuguese with their 3. French don't have any, so that's that. These will go back in the cup and get shuffled back together. And that is the end of the draw resources phase, which means we'll be hitting the diplomacy phase, which we did not have in the first turn. And at this point is when you might get your leader back if you want to pay. So you're not you're kind of depriving, like by paying for a ransom, you're kind of depriving the enemy of leader cards. Now, the Muslims may want to check to see if they have the ransom card, because that allows them to not ransom but somehow break out the leader for free, even though it's titled ransom. Or to give, you know, the crown something that doesn't matter to anybody as a ransom. because you're allowed to ransom all the time. So I don't know what that's meant to represent. It seems misnamed. But yeah, I don't feel up to doing diplomacy quite yet. This is the major power diplomacy, where they're going to talk about, you know, all the shit that they want to do. And I got to think about that a little bit, but I also have to read up on the rules again. Haven't done this before. It was wise not to go out, it turns out. It started raining pretty hard and hailing and all kind of shit. I got some food cooking, so I don't know if I'll be back up for a while because it's getting close to raid time. I'm performing my diplomacy in kind of a scattershot way. Most games I can kind of come up with, oh, we can make this deal, whatever. But this with the embedded cards, all kind of situations, it's really hard to just kind of see and say, look, you know, this would be good for both of us. First thing I tried to do was figure out what France's strategy is. And I could declare the Treaty of Barcelona would not create a peace by getting rid of some cards. I could also do it by losing Roussillon, which would create a peace. I don't particularly care that much about peace. I know I'm going to be at war with Spain most of the game. So I'm not really willing to give Roussillon away. But on the other hand, I'm having a hard time figuring out anything I want to do with the French. I may just end up boosting markers some more and hoping for the best. The Muslim player, it's not much the Nazarids can do until they're brought into the game again by the mandatory event. But the North Africans would really like to see Portugal leave them alone. They're feeling beaten up and at a disadvantage. Now I have a really powerful and valuable thing in my hand. The School of Sagres Henry the Navigator. And I'm willing to reveal that to Portugal with a, hey look, if we go to peace, I'll play this. It'll give me 5 CPs, which is a nice consolation prize. You might argue, well, I could give cards away and whatnot. First of all, I want my leader back too, you know. But what I can't do is give this card to the Portuguese, but it's actually fine in my hands, you know, as part of a bribe. The problem I'm having is I'm just not convinced that the Portuguese care that much. On turn 1, they might have. But at this point, I don't know. I'm going to look at their cards and think about, you know, because they have 2 things they have to worry about here. One is, do I even trust the Muslims to go through with their deal? And if he shows me the card and says, look, I get 5 CP if I play it, you know, it's not a bad thing for me. I think my trust is a little higher than it would be if he was basically playing a card to no use for himself. But the other is, look, I have a goal here, and then I also have the possibility of interfering with those caravans, but I also have a pretty big goal towards getting myself things in on the way to India, and getting myself more resources is more towards the lines of building a little engine that'll allow me to get more cards and all that. So, or whatever. I mean, the resources are essentially cards. So I don't know. What am I sitting on here already? A few. Unlike France, Portugal, it feels like, has plenty of things to do, right? I've got this, I've got North Africa, I've got support of the Beltranejos. So I'm tempted to let one of them go on the back burner, as it were. I'm going to do on odd, the Portuguese will accept the Muslim offer. And then I'll go over what we're doing. But it's going to involve going to peace, the Muslims promising to play this, which is non-binding, giving this over. It feels like this is to the Muslims' advantage and not to mine. But again, I've got a lot I want to do. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with us at peace. So I will have gotten Quetta and Tangier. All right, we're going to accept the deal. I don't think we want to go to an alliance. Sweeten the deal a little bit. I'm going to make sure they need to play that card as kind of the first card of the turn, but not the headline event. Okay. And I'm putting a little Portuguese marker here to remind me of that situation. I'm resolving the diplomacy within the negotiation phase. So I actually gave back the leaders, put them at peace and whatnot. You wouldn't do this in a face-to-face game, in an opposed game, but it's going to help me remember what my agreements are and what not to do it ahead of time. And the last set of cards I looked at were the Spaniards. I chose what their headline event is going to be, even though I'm not quite there yet. I don't think there's any other diplomacy that's going to happen at this point. The French don't want to cede anything with regard to Treaty of Barcelona yet. They want to see that something gets executed first. They want the peace with England first. Like, it doesn't do me much good to just do the Treaty of Barcelona. So I could sign it during spring deployment, give the Spanish 2 cards chosen by the French player from his hand, one of each resource, or one of his resources chosen at random, and 1 card. So my resource is awfully good, so I'd be giving 2 cards up. And I don't really want to do that. And the war state would be left unaltered. All that would do is open me up to being able to declare war on certain nations in Italy that I cannot right now, which is declare war. By the way, I was wrong about something. I also have Ravenna. There's a little blue marker there. I didn't count that, but it doesn't help me. Genoa, Florence, and Venice are the 3 states I can't declare war on. Genoa might be of value to me, but I don't have Milan yet, and I can march my way down towards Naples or whatever as things sit. So, you know, whatever, right? I do get my redeployment. That'll let me get these troops out of there, get somebody down there or something along those lines. Although I think I'm getting out of there. I think I'm going to focus once again, I guess, on Metz. Although I kind of wish I had deployed these differently. I just don't know. I'm finding it really hard to come up with whatever to do with the French. I think I'm going to be having a hard time with the Muslims, too. Although they wanted this deal and they wanted to stop the war because they're losing it, they don't really have a whole hell of a lot else to do with their cards except fight the Portuguese. The Nasrid are locked in, although the card which brings them to war is sitting out there somewhere. But that is, the Spaniards are trying to kill it. So their goal with their headline event, I saw that card and I'm like, oh, let's put a headline event with a cheap point on it. But if anybody else is trying to kill something, we're not going to succeed, and we'll end up back at war with them. Anyway, all good. And then, yeah, I feel lost now. Okay, so ransom segment. There's nothing left to ransom. The one leader got bagged, and 1 leader doesn't do anything, and nobody wants to declare any new wars. For the most part, you know, like in EU, I don't want to be in a war. Whoa! I just saw a very wet squirrel run by. I think it looked very, very dark, though. Anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna pause here then at the spring phase, I guess. Although, you know, I've already started picking headline events, so I might pick some more. But I don't actually want to fire them off. Nobody's going to do naval squadron transfer, but troop deployment might happen. And there it goes again. Oh, headline events are so annoying to figure out what I want to do. So, like, the Spaniards are putting a 3-point backer card. It's the worst thing they have, I think. No, they have a 2-point card that they like. They're putting a 3-point card, figuring, I probably won't get to do this. Or I'll probably get to discard this, but it's okay if I don't. I don't really care. Other powers, the Portuguese and Muslims, put a 3-point card as their backer with the thought that they want to get the event play. Now that's okay, the way it'll work out. Spain goes after all of them. But France is in a particularly ugly place. Now, again, I don't know what the points I put on anyone else is, but I don't have any events that I can play as a headline event that I don't want to happen. Which means a 3-point card would be about the minimum that I would play. And I was actually looking for one because I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to waste my good cards. Of course, there's a victory point at stake, which is one helpful thing. But so I don't want to play any of these 2-point cards as backers. That's fine. But if that's the case, the lowest backer I have is a 4-point card. And then I'm like, well, I might as well play a 5-point card and ensure, you know, that I get the victory point, right? So I don't know. I'm gonna try to look. I think I'm probably gonna do the war preparations, which can only be played during spring deployment, which I guess can only be played as a headline event there. Of course, I can also play this during the war segment back here, I guess as kind of a response card. I don't know. I mean, this event appears to break a lot of the rules of the game, right? But this will give me a unit. Get another card. I don't know. Maybe it's my backer. It's just 1 unit doesn't seem like a lot. I may want to play something like hold this so that the Spaniards can't steal a card, although honestly I don't know how much I care if they do. And I could get some additional forces. I'm left again with this. Geez, what the fuck do I do with the French? Yeah. And I don't know what my chances of taking. Like, I have shit. I don't have an army. That's the problem. I just do not have a French army. Power of the Crown lets me add loyalty and troops. I just I don't feel like I have the army that I need to do any of the things I want to do, like take Milan or Metz. And I guess that's where I'm going to focus my effort. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go play Raid, so I'll figure out what the French do, but they're going to try to figure out what gets them the most troops, I guess. It's Monday, I guess, early afternoon. I arranged to go for a walk today, and therefore, like, my sleep schedule is more fucked up than usual because, hey, I got something to do. I've got to not sleep because of it. On top of that, the guys who are cutting wood woke me up. I was trying to get my second sleep in the morning, in sort of like regular working hours morning, and it's good that they're going to come down and cut today. Although I'm a little nervous because I'm afraid that they're going to take my pile of wood that I have. I have a big pile of wood over here that's just branches and shit that I intend to cut, and then they might not leave me certain largish branches that I have. It's not that big a thing. I don't use that much wood, but anyway, of course, inevitably I will, when discussing things with other people, end up getting the wrong there they are working. Give the wrong impression as to what I want done. They're probably going to leave chunks that are too big for me to actually deal with of the wood, and I might have been better off on my own. I don't know. Although their chainsaws are much better at cutting through the big stuff. But anyway, I have a little bit of time here, so I'm going to do at least the headline events, which I've pre-programmed. And so, trying to burn that card, just like the French burned a card. Not trying to burn that card, thinking a 3 means it'll get played. Not trying to burn that card, but the French trying to guarantee they get their card. So they get their card with that big 5, and that'll give them a victory point for headline events. My eyes are not great right now, so I record that. And that goes here. Second place, we'll get to afterwards. But first place gets to do the Power of the Crown card. So the backing card goes away. Up here. And the Power of the Crown, I wanted troops. I'm willing to let the Spanish take a card from the discard pile. Which, as far as I can tell, could be the Papal Bull. Advance the loyalty of 1 house. Add 2 regulars and a cav to any home spaces, essentially. Might as well put them up here. I can reposition that whole force or reposition this force. The advantage of what I did is I spent a hell of a big card, but I just didn't have anything I wanted to play as a headline that wasn't a big card. And I don't want to be put into the position where my card gets burned. And I would almost guarantee it, as being the last player playing a 2 as my backer, to do that. So, yeah, my card options, I think I had a 4. I had no 3s. That would have been my... I have a whole bunch of shitty 2s and some good, and then a bunch of good cards. And that's just what I'm forced into. Our next will be the 3-point for the Muslims. And now they got to roll on a 5 or higher, they gain a headline victory point. And they could take hits to their admin rating to make up for that. They can't take enough hits to make up for it. So instead, their headline event will get played. without getting points. But, you know, when you're playing a 3, you're hoping, well, as the Muslim player, you're pretty much guaranteed to get your event off. I could add units to the Nasrid or gain a victory point for controlling Granada. I want to gain a victory point for controlling Granada. I think these are Alhambra points. I'm not positive about that. I can look that up. Wait, before I find that, I don't know if it has it written somewhere. I don't think their home card is spelled out how I get that point, but I don't have anything except this Waco Pirates, which I'm pretty sure is not what I want. I don't have anything that I could use for that victory point. Obviously, I could use like a headline event or something, but that would be wrong. Okay. So reason tells me it has to be the Alhambra. It may tell me somewhere else, but I don't know. Now, and, you know, if this was EU, the event, I'd open it up, it would tell me exactly what I need to know. All the rules would be in the one place, instead of there's a line on a card that doesn't tell me everything about what I need. Of course, if it was EU, it probably wouldn't tell me what I need to know anyway, but that's a different matter. If it was that kind of event book, instead of trying to fit everything that needs to go on one of these cards with 3 fucking events on the card. So the other thing though is that I am kind of safe, because I know the Mulli Hassan is going to go last. I see it sitting there. So I'm not going to end up at war with the Spaniards. Even if I did, I probably would go ahead with it. The victory point seems like a better deal right now after I tried combat and failed on the last turn. That'll put me in, lost my page. And this is the other thing. If I want to know what's going on, I kind of have to be in the section of the rules to tell me first place, second place, third place, fourth place. That's not spelled out on any of these player aids. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it is. There is, you know, there's a significant amount of player aid with this game. There may be additional stuff that I could print out, but the overload is already there. You can only give me so much like material that I have to pay attention to. And in a way, the rule book is actually easier than anything else. But it's just a matter of like, Jesus, I have to page through this book to find special rules to see if there were any for that card. Couldn't find one. Then I have to page back to the sequence of play-based rules. Again, the EU model is so much better for events. There's a straight rule book. Granted, there are special rules in it for the countries, which mean you do have to paw through them for some things. But there are things that don't link to the events. And then there's the event book. And the event book, when you're under, you know, the rules of an event, you have to deal with it. Third place just gets to play its card, which is good, because this is a card I absolutely want it to play. I figure as going the second player, I'm pretty likely to get a 3 package. But what I'm going to do is 2 militia, a naval squadron, add a now, and then 2 naval moves. Probably would have been better off parking my fleet in Quetta so I could get this extra ship there. Instead, I can't place it with my fleet, and therefore it's like the rest of the, you know, I've got an extra ship up there. but I get to do the naval moves. I'm not going to be able to be intercepted because nobody's at sea. So I can take advantage of that. Here's the new now. There's my first naval move. And we will leave these in the Gulf of Cadiz for now. Countermix limitations. Then I wanted to get a I had a 2-point militia there. I wanted to get a 4-point militia there. Another option would be to spread them out a little bit more. Might help defend something like this, but gosh, I don't know. Countermix isn't that bad, is it? Yeah, I think. See, the advantage of these all together is that I can move them all together someplace, like in spring deployment, to get them down here. How big is he? You got to take so many things into consideration. That doesn't count. It's a cav. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm full up. You know what? I'm going to chicken butt. I'm going to do it this way instead. Fortify. Certainly this space. Does this space need to be fortified? Makes my spring move questionable, though. But I don't know. I don't really need to do it. Or I can... Ooh. He doesn't have troops. Screw you, man. Let's put that 4 back there. I can shift these all the way down to... oh, no, I'm not at war with the Muslims anymore. Oh, God. Can't make my mind up, man. But, you know, it's a matter of balancing all these different factors and trying to figure out what I want. This may not be too terribly important. Let's put this in Quetta. Give me a little bit more reserve there. All right, now, I did one of my naval moves there. I get to do one here, which is going to be the exploration side of things. We did this already before, but I figure let's do it again. I don't have to make a navigation table because I'm not going over a danger zone, but I do have to make a terra incognita. I'm probably best off playing this. That's got a navigation of 2. And I get no bonuses. I'm sorry, terra incognita 5. I am sunk. This is not terra incognita. Is it? Oh, geez, I don't know. No, it's not terra incognita, and it's not navigation. I only have to make navigation... Wait. I think I only have to make the navigation check, and now I'm hating this. If I'm crossing one of these arrows. Terra incognita I would have to make... I could make a cartography check. Gosh, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, I think I did sail into here and tried to make a cartography check, which still gets me a sunk result on such a shitty result. So that is gone, right? Sunk doesn't send you up there like it would with a fleet. Oh, actually it does, doesn't it? It does, and it's saying I can only rebuild it, I think. Right? Yeah, it goes back to the turn track, and that just means this guy cannot be rebuilt until next turn. Okay. That means I try again, sailing in here, this time with only a C1. And I roll a 7. I get no effect. Now I can take my second to... I could either continue exploration or I could build my settlement. I think I want to just build the settlement. And I don't know if I get a point for that. That puts him away, right? When you build a settlement. Let's look. Founding settlements. I have to spend a second naval action to enter as it's moved within the action. Found a settlement. I move the now to the turn track so I can repurchase him or whatever on another turn. And that's 2 good nows that are gone. Now, draw a naval resource from the pool and place it face down on the space as well. But I have to figure out a way to get this home. That'll be 2 military. I don't know. I don't know how to deal, because the resource covers up whose it is, but then this covers up the resource. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the settlement's worth anything. We have a whole list of victory points somewhere. I don't think I get anything for just building a settlement. It feels a little weird. My battery's almost dead. It's taken me a long time to go through this. I don't know if it's really worth it, but whatever. So there's something interesting here. And this may be what the discussion was. So I'm trying to do the same thing the French did by canceling this mandatory event. And I probably wouldn't have played it, right, if I thought it didn't work this way. Do not execute your selected event. However, you may move any player's influence marker on minor power up or down 1 space on the diplomatic influence table. That's, that seems clear, right? But there's this important. The headline events can never be canceled or affected by another card. However, if through the use of CPs in the event, movements are made or combat is generated, combat or response cards that affect movement interceptions. Okay, so this is not, to me, another card, even though there's another card in the backing. This is a failure to execute the event. The headline event will still happen on its mandatory time, and I think that is this turn, at the end of the turn. But I think this is the way it's meant to work, is that you have a capability to cancel out a headline, to cancel out a mandatory event by playing it as a headline event with the lowest backing card and being last in order of those with the lowest backing card. And that's how I played it the other time as well. So I think all I get out of this is to move a player's influence marker on a minor power up or down a space on the diplomatic table. Probably want to move one of my own up. Naples is already under my control, so I don't really, I'd like to keep it in control, but I don't expect much to happen. The French wars don't seem to be happening. And if I bring somebody like Florence in, it allows France to, or the Italian wars, if I bring somebody like Florence in, it allows France to reach Florence and attack them where they couldn't normally. They still have to march their way through, but, they're not allowed to declare war on Florence or Genoa. But what is of interest to me is Navarre. And so I'm going to move that up. And that's my consolation prize for not getting my event, even though that's exactly what I wanted. I still spent 2 cards, 6 points of CP on that, on trying to fail, right? You're not allowed, I think. You can't use a mandatory event to support, but it's a home card, mandatory event, or normal event card. You're not allowed to play a reaction card or a battle card or something like that, which would have no effect as your headline event. Now that's going to put me to Naval squadron transfer. Each with an explored ocean zone on the ocean map has an option to move a naval squadron. Okay. That's just Portugal. But I don't know how to get this resource home. And I'm going to have to stop and reread that. How does that get home to me? Because I'm pretty sure I need to have boats for it to get home. Actually, what I think happens is whether I have boats or not, I roll on the return of naval and caravan resources. It would really be helpful if it had the rule number next to each of these charts, just to align it with the rules better. So that if I'm like, oh, I don't really understand the chart, I can look back. Although I usually work the other way. But if I'm returning, whether it's free of plunder or subsequent to plunder, there is a chance that it fails. I think it's going to be free of plunder if I can trace back to a home port or something. So I don't think I actually need a garrison, but I don't know. Which is why we have a rule book, right? And we look for resource return. Determine whether or not naval resources are placed in settlements, arrive there. If you have a naval escort squadron in that ocean zone. So I could get +2 on the recovery table. And what am I getting out of this? I'm getting 2 militia. I don't think that's worth me sending a fleet out of the Gulf of Cadiz. Although actually, I'm not really sure they're doing anything for me there. So what was I allowed to do? I was allowed to do something let me move a fleet. I don't remember what. Where am I? Naval Squadron Transfer Segment. Yeah, this is a special segment. So I'm not at war with the Muslims any longer, which means I don't really have to worry about them. And they don't have Corsairs, so I don't have to worry about that. So yeah, I should be able to find this rule. Each power with an explored ocean zone may move a naval squadron from a home port on the main board to one of the ocean zones they have explored. They may return a squadron and... Yeah, see, I screwed this up. If I had realized this, I would have left that fleet in a home port. Because these guys aren't really doing much for me. Or I could have just sailed here. So I'm going to sail an escort fleet out here. He's got a chance to return... He gets to return to the main map, and his main thing is he's going to get me that resource chit. It's not a great chit. It's not a big deal. And now troop deployment. Each power can move a formation of land units from a home key to a friendly space free of enemy units following certain communications rules, but they are kind of weird. Like I can move 5 units over sea without worrying about interceptions and stuff. Let's talk about those positionings a little bit. I think I shifted Portuguese down to here. Beltranos, I did something, I think to get, yeah, I got his troops over to here. I left him back here though, with the garrison. It's kind of a tough call. It's like, if he's with this, I'll lose 2 leaders if I lose the battle. If he's here, I may lose the leader due to siege. And I really don't want my leaders captured, even if I don't like them. So, the Muslims didn't do much at all. Shifted forces here to Ibn Yahya and may have rearranged a little bit. Moved a unit over there. The Spaniards a little bit more complicated. I shifted forces from Isabella to Mendoza, and I moved Ferdinand up to the French border. Alternatively, I could have moved John over here to command an attack on the papacy, which might have been a useful thing to do, to be honest. However, I want that Roussillon conquest, whatever, and by moving here, the French had to respond and move Tremoille down, and they're only at one major power now. They've lost the Catalans. That's going to put me on the action phase. I don't have time to start to get through that, and I don't want to fiddle around and do like a couple of actions for no good reason. Here I am on Tuesday, very, very foggy. I really wore myself out going for a walk and hanging out with someone for a long time. I'm not used to that, and I haven't gotten a lot of sleep, but I came up here after deciding I can't sleep. Played the Muslim turn, which went as follows. First of all, I took advantage, or I facilitated the turn that I agreed to. Didn't have to, giving the Portuguese a victory point and opening them up so that they can build 3 naus per turn and explore these 3 areas without limitation. How big a deal is it? I don't know. Portugal's not unhappy to have the peace, although they would have liked to pursue more. This allows them to focus, and the Muslims really were on the ropes. The Portuguese had been concentrating on them, and it was not good. But that gave me 5 points to operate. I built myself 3 privateers, which I could actually, I'll build them here so that I can use Kamal Rice with them. 3 privateers, and that left me 2 points. 2 points would allow me to sail to the Barbary coast. I could attack the Alboran Sea, conceivably, but it costs 2 to do a piracy action. So I would be a point short. So I built myself some Nasrid Cav as well. Now, like I said, I'm kind of fatigued and I don't want to do more actions. It's just, I'm just not feeling awake enough. Portuguese played this card for the points. And first 2 I built a naus. I got lucky, got another good one. And then I moved into Cordoba. Spaniards were unable to withdraw, fought the battle. Both sides charged with their cav. The hits are pretty bad. Maybe the Portuguese didn't want to charge, actually, for various reasons. But anyway, they're going to win the battle and force the enemy back. But they have, and I still have a point left, which I'm going to explore with the naus. But they have a card, Cav Pursuit. Play after winning a field battle where at least 1 cav unit of the winning formation has survived. Roll 5 extra dice, hitting on rolls of 5 and 6, and apply the any additional hits to the loser's surviving units. Now, I wanted to make sure I won, which is part of why I did the cav charge, because I was facing a pretty big force. There's 1 Spaniard remaining. I don't know if it's worth a card. Certainly not to kill the unit, right? The unit's worth 3 points, which, you know, the card isn't worth that much, is it? The card's worth 2. But I guess the bigger thing is that I'd get a captive leader, and I'd get points. So I think I'm going to do it just because of the points I'm going to get off of it. In terms of, like, getting a resource draw, and then potentially being able to get him out of there. Ooh, not a good roll at all. And we expended our response card for that. Damn. Oh well. And then I get that exploration roll. I don't remember what it is. Oh no, it's not an exploration. I used the 1 extra point to sail out into here. That doesn't give me much of anything. I can do an exploration next turn. Part of the reason I wanted to do this is I'm holding the slave trade card, which would allow me a random naval resource to one of my naus or to an empty settlement. It's hard to have an empty settlement unless it's been pirated or something. But then draw 2 extra naval resources directly to your player card, which would give me more capability, although I'm running out of as long as I only am getting command points for my resources, I'm running out of kind of actions, but I could extend that turn. So I'm still safe. But on the other side of this, so this guy would then return home. He'd, I think, go to the turn track, which means I'd have to rebuild him, which makes the resources kind of less valuable if that's the case. But I'd get the resource home, which is not a terribly valuable trade if that's what it is. But because I got a good one, I'm almost certainly going to just try to explore further and, get another settlement down if I can get the moves for it. So that's the end of my moves. Again, I'm moving a piece and stopping there. It's not just the tiredness. It's the same as last turn. I'm fatigued after figuring out how to do, what one card to do early in the turn. And this was hitting me with other games of this type of design. Other games where you have big hands full of cards with lots of events in them and everything, where you really kind of have to contemplate and figure out what the fuck you're going to do in a turn. When it gets later in the turn, or in a particular impulse, when it gets later in the turn and I don't have as many cards to contemplate, I feel a lot less stress about it. But it does lead me to say, I don't know if I'd want to play this opposed. Again, the complexity level of the decisions is high enough that I'm like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. I don't mind playing it solo. Honestly, I don't know how much I want to play things opposed at all anymore, to tell you the truth. Because there's the fatigue factor in teaching a game and kind of running it and whatnot, which is generally the case. And I've just I've gotten lazy, in a lot of ways. Same with going out for a walk with someone. I enjoyed myself. I enjoy and perhaps even need some human contact like that. But I'm no longer used to it. It's very tiring to engage with other humans when you're not used to it. And I kind of, in a similar sort of way, but I can remember feeling very exhausted even when I was used to people. But yeah, I really kind of think that Here I Stand is that sweet spot for me, not just for solo, but honestly even more so for opposed play. I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm having a good time because I'm able to put aside I can figure everything out and whatever, and putting it more to we'll see what happens. It's cool to watch the game unfold. I actually know what the Spaniards are going to play next, so maybe I'll just do them. I'm pretty sure they're going to play the Burgundian War mandatory event that they have in hand. As it is their counter. France must remove 6 to 10 units from the map and 1 leader if desired and place them on the card. Put a -1 card on the French while the war continues. This is very appealing. Oh, by the way, that card is now out of the game. This is very appealing in the sense of clearing the problem out of Roussillon. Now, it may not just get out of Roussillon, but the French do not have a lot of troops on the board. So I think this is what we're going to do. It's actually had exactly 6 units not in that Roussillon space. I kind of feel like the Spaniards aren't going to be able to afford an attack into there very easily. And so we've managed to put Albert in there as well. His command rating doesn't actually matter until he's released. So, yeah, we're going at like 7 dice to 7 dice, though, if we're going to fight. Which is not optimal, but at least I get to hold things off here. So that's going to put the turn on the French. But again, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with the French. I had a pretty good idea what I wanted the Spanish to do, knowing that they had that card still. So France does not have any cards that really justify making an attack against Ferdinand. With Ferdinand, he has a combat card, but he has a disadvantage against Ferdinand. Ferdinand's got a higher leadership. I'm not even looking at the troop qualities there or whatever. I may be, I don't think I'm overstacked. But in the sense that, like, I may not be able to bring my whole formation or whatever. So my first thing is, let's soften the Spaniards up with a Papal Bull. And then I get 4 CPs, and I'll figure out what I want to do. It is a good chance that I want to attack. I don't know what else to do. You know, my entire force is there. I don't have the Catalans anymore. I don't have a lot of goals. But the papacy is not really available to me to use. I should have a flag there, though. I took that flag away. I didn't take the other. I didn't take the one down there away, but I took that one away. I do have Venice that I could play around with, and I could use them for something. What? They have a 1 strength point advantage. I didn't check Cav, though, which could come into it. I pulled a response card, which, you know, is okay, but it's not one that really helps me. I do get 4 more points off the Papal Bull, though. And I don't know exactly what to do with it. I've already played my home card that allows me to cancel Tanto Monta, which means the Spaniards could pick this sucker up and bounce it back at me. Oddly enough, the Papal Bull seems to actually get discarded, even though it gets pulled out of the deck every time. So one of my options is to attack straight up. Another, and an interesting option, is I could use my Venetians and kind of expand into, say, Modena or something like that. How big is that? That's a 3. Let me see if I can reduce the counter. Okay. I can't have the Papals leave the Roman territory. They have special rules on that. Taking a naval move probably isn't a bad idea. Get some fleets out there to protect things. I don't see a whole hell of a lot else I can do. I can, of course, play with those charts and everything, but I think let's see if we can win that battle. Actually grab a couple more dice. And by the way, those Cav images, they're really causing problems. I'm having a real hard time discerning that they're Cav. This one is a Cav, and I just wasn't counting it. It looked like one guy, but it's a different picture. But it's like, it's just too hard to see. I think part of the problem is they're showing the Cav facing forward, as they are with the infantry, right? But the Cav facing forward looks too much like one, or in some cases, 2 men running forward. And it just is not easy. Both sides actually have Cav. I had to pull some more dice out of my, I left them spilled out to fill this out, because we're looking at 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on attack to 15 on defense. I do have a backer card, though. One of the reasons I wanted to pull a card was in case he has a defensive card, maybe I get lucky taking that from him. My backer card is the leadership card, which will allow me to reroll misses, or I could inflict 1 wound and get rid of Tremoil permanently. But yeah, I don't know about that option of the leadership card being very valuable unless you know you're on the last turn of a leader, and I will never remember that. I could, of course, look it up here. But getting 1 extra hit is just not that valuable in a big battle like this. Getting to reroll a lot of dice is really valuable. I don't know if I want to do this, my battle card, because it looks like I got a better die roll. So the Spaniards are getting 6 hits on me. Sorry, 7. There's 2. Both sides are big enough armies. I'm just saying there's got to be 2 things, and I'm getting 7. But that'll be an even fight. I think I withdraw in that case. I'd like to have the victory. So, and I mark my CPs remaining with one of these useless dice. I mean, you can't fit 13 of these dice in your hand. Okay, you really don't want anything bigger than that. I saw one good sign as to the dice size, which is, and again, I wasn't, that's not something I'm really pleading with GMT with the way I am, like reduce the costs of your cards. In one of the CNCs more recently, I guess Medieval or something like that, something that's been more recently produced, they started producing smaller dice to go with it. Now, this is kind of problematic because it's part of a series and it's got special dice and you really need to use the dice from the CNC series. I don't know if they have different dice for different games in the series. I don't think so. I think they use the same symbols on all the dice. But yeah, it was kind of a weird thing to see, oh look, they've changed the size of the dice. They've made them a little smaller, not as small as I would like, not something where you could get fistfuls of dice in your hand at once. But in a buckets of dice game, damn it, those are too fucking big. Like, they are not usable in this game, as far as I'm concerned, except as markers like this, and every now and then I'll roll 2 of them when I'm dealing with one country or whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna roll, oh, I forgot I have this to deal with. There's got to be something that allows me to fight that. Fight foreign war, cost 1. Yeah, well, I made my choice. I probably would have delayed and used my points to try to get these troops out of there, to succeed in that. But then again, I'm looking at a one-on-one fight there, so this is not that bad an idea. And if I succeed here, I can just keep pushing down, and I can say fuck it to the Burgundian War and just use extra points when I have them here and there to see what I can do with that. So I will be re-rolling all of those dice. Only 5s and 6s count, even if I had extra 4s available to me. Leadership card got us the win. We pushed into Emporius, we bought it, so now we got 2 more actions. I don't really have a big enough force. Like, we wiped each other out. I don't really have a big enough force to face whatever he's got here. I've got like 2 strength points. He's got an infantry, a cav, and an artillery. I didn't get a big enough win out of it. He probably can't beat me up either. And what does that mean with my 2 points? Maybe I work my way for this. I was considering doing a naval move. I don't know. I mean, I can always make an interception attempt in a naval action. Ugh. Can Venice do anything exciting? I don't know. What I could do with Venice is I could do the, I don't know if they have a special marker for it, for naval transport. Yeah, they have this 2+ for naval transport. But that's because you spend an extra move moving out to sea and then at least 1 more move to move to the next port. It's really just a land move action. But, it's helpful that it has that. It does remind me of what is going on there. I didn't even have to look it up to make sure, because it is kind of weird. But I could conceivably ship some of my Venetians down here to deal with Naples, which wouldn't be terrible. So yeah, let's do a naval move and then a foreign war fight, because we won't have enough movement to move the Neapolitans. But then that'll give me additional movements elsewhere. I'll keep my resources in hand because, I mean, You could make an argument for build some troops, but I think they only appear at keys, so I couldn't build them here. I do have a home card that allows me to build this force up, but build some keys and get my forces, yeah, I don't know. Or build up some troops, move them into here, and then you know, be in a position where I can continue the fight against the Spaniards. Because as it is, the Spaniards are going to get another turn. They can build up forces and move right in and fuck me up. It's just the nature of this game is that, like, yeah, it's really hard to invade an enemy who has cards. And it turns out I only have one ship here, so this is kind of not safe. There's a couple Spaniards with a leader. That doesn't look safe particularly, but I'm out here. He could have intercepted. I don't see much point to it. Like, it's just risking ships to fight each other, and I don't see, he's not going to lay siege to me here. He doesn't have the troops, and I'm not particularly worried about being blockaded in, but here, yeah, I would intercept if I could and destroy a French fleet. Why not? But the Venetians are moving out. That uses the last move. The fight on the war against Burgundy didn't go terribly well. We're at about equal. The defenders have an extra point. Slowly starting to consolidate my independence. That allows me to get rid of some of these tribals I was using instead of them. I could also use gouaches. They're all the same, right? You're not limited by countermix for these things because, well, gouaches you might be, but independence you can't be. So, yeah. And I don't know. That's going to put it back to the Muslims. I feel aware and awake enough. You know, it's because raid's coming up. I know that my daylight, you know, my day of ability to be up here playing, as opposed to like, yeah, I might come up, you know, in the wee hours of the morning or whatever, is probably almost over. So I had better get some done. I did manage to get a little bit of snooze in, not much, just, you know, listening to video or whatever. The North Africa, well, the Muslim player, because they have no wars that they're involved in anymore after going to peace with the Portuguese. I'm going to play the Rise of University. Check University box, it's not there. So I place a development marker in my University box. Choose either to gain a VP and take 4 CPs of action, or place a development marker on the University box and take 3 CP of action. But if the marker were there already, I would get 3 VP with no actions. I don't really have a lot of actions except maybe building up my army that I want to do. So it seems to me that this is not a bad choice. Start setting myself up for getting victory points in the long run. 3 CP of action, though, is going to, I don't know. Let me see if I can do piracy. Big problems with this, and it's, you know, this huge set of rules, right, for piracy itself, which are again presented procedurally. I don't know if it's worth doing piracy. I built Corsairs with the assumption that it's got to be of some value, and it is of value in Here I Stand, so I figure it will be here. But if, like, reading through this, my impression was, oh, it doesn't sound that safe. It sounds really dangerous. So what do I do? Well, first thing I have to do is see what kind of dice I'd be looking at. On the Barbary coast, I would not be being intercepted. I think that's my best place. So that would take me 2 moves to get to and 1 to do piracy. On the Barbary coast, I'd get the target We get 2 dice for each naval unit, which is none. 1 die for each naval unit in port, which is none. And 1 die for each fortress controlled by the targeted power. This is one of the problems, is there's fortresses here. Does he have any adjacent to this? He doesn't. So this is really a ripe space. Because I'm limited, I have to hit a place where the enemy has at least 2 ports to get full value. If he only has 1, I don't get full value. And then he'd get a first strike at me, but he doesn't get any dice, so I get away safe. For myself, I get, because I'm bringing, and we'll just do this. I'm bringing this guy. Let's send him, he's a pirate. 1, 2, and then I spend 1 for the piracy, I believe. But I can do other naval movements. I don't know if those are together. I have 1, what do I have here? What does my piracy leader do for me? God damn it. See, now piracy rating gives me this. If they're... The active player rolls a number of dice. Each 5 or 6 is a hit. That doesn't help. Okay, so I get 1 die. No, I get 2 dice. Plus the piracy rating of a naval leader. Yeah. So I only actually need 2 of these. I built 3 for some reason. So I don't get attacked. This cost me 2 to move there. I moved my other fleets 1. They could go another one if I wanted to. Any reason to go to the Gulf of Cadiz? Portugal can't, probably can't go to war with me. I don't know. Yeah, let's sail out here. And these are here too if they're connected. I don't want to look that up. Do I have any allies? Probably not. Nope. But I gotta remember Naples is allied. I'm surprised Naples doesn't have a navy. Interesting. They have one, they just don't start with it. Okay. So I'm not as surprised. So what do I get? I get 3 dice on piracy. I need 5s and 6s. Okay, I got 2 hits. For each hit, the targeted power has to eliminate a naval unit. They don't have any. Allow the active player to draw at random and keep a card from their hand. Award the active player a victory point for piracy. Or remove a Spanish military order. Well, what's going to happen is I'm going to give them a victory point because why not? But I can't give them just victory points. So for the other thing, I've got to give them a card. I don't have any resources, so it's got to be a card. It's actually kind of cool. If you can get away with piracy, I blew this card to position myself to fire off the piracy. Piracy only costs 1, right? Fuck, it costs 2. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it as is. Right. Wait, no, I had 4, how many CPs? I had 3 CPs of actions, right? That's the problem. I had 3 CPs of actions, not 4. We'll just leave it as is. Fuck it. I'm just not in the mood to try to reverse it since I rolled the dice. Because, yeah, I could have attacked this. You know what? Let's attack that. That would have gotten a die, and I would have gotten less dice. Okay, so they hit one of our ships, and we would all be here instead. Okay, they hit one of our ships, it goes over here. We would have gotten less dice against them because they only have one port, which means only 2 dice. We'll give them 1 hit as kind of the average between the two because, like, I got a good roll. Nah, screw it. We'll just, the hell with them. So they do not get the card. And that's the thing. If I get the card, it's a good thing. Because I'm regenerating my hand and getting more actions out of it. So the piracy is almost like a pass. I take a card from someone else if they give me a card. But here they did not, and I conducted piracy, so I get a marker wherever they are. They're not these. I don't know where they are. Do the Turks not have piracy markers? And if so, why would... Oh, no. I've put them over here just to confuse myself. Okay. So I put a piracy marker here. I can't put another one there. And I'm only allowed like 3 on the board at any time. This is particularly limiting for the Muslims because they kind of want to do piracy. But yeah, at least this was legal. I feel bad that I rolled well and then poorly, but because I probably wouldn't have done this attack at all. Like, the odds just aren't good. I give a die up to the defense to shoot me, and I only get 2 dice, whereas here I was getting 3 dice to nothing. But next impulse, I can pirate that, and I can come over here and pirate this too. But yeah, all right, that's gonna put me on the Portuguese. I kind of want to go around again, so yeah. And just I'm having such a hard time, you know, convincing myself to do another card, even just one more. Sort of intrinsic laziness, whatever, procrastination in me, where it's like I do one thing, you know, it's like I moved a piece, now I can go rest, and I don't even particularly want to. Like, I'm enjoying myself. I want to keep going, but it's like something in me really tells me I should stop, you know. And I feel the same way when I'm like, you know, doing housework or whatever, which is part of why nothing ever gets done. Is I start doing something, you know, maybe move a piece of wood or something, and then I'm like, oh, I did enough. Funny thing about that is it's also how I, you know, used to do my work. I would, you know, set a task aside, do it, and then do something as a break between things, right? Like, or, you know, I would set a portion of a task or whatever it is, right? And so, like, I would come up here and play a game a little bit. Or if I didn't have something like that set up that was driving me, that was kind of a counterbalance of the same kind of thing where I want to do something and then that's good enough. You know, I'd go and I'd do some yard work, or I'd go for a walk, or, you know. And so, like, I'd do like a half-hour work and take a 10-minute break or whatever, you know, or do a few hours of work and then take like a 20-30-minute break or something, depending on, you know, what the nature of the tasks are and whatnot. But it was much, much healthier. And I'm not finding myself in that position so much. One of the things I did as breaks was I'd have something kind of like Raid. I had games like it on you know, that I'd be playing online that are mindless, but a good way for me to like just break away. Now, if I was stuck in an office, I obviously couldn't be playing, you know, some random computer game or walk upstairs and play my game. So like I'd take smoke breaks or walk around the office, you know, searching for food or something. They were often lunch, you know, they would put spread out for lunch for a team or whatever, and you just find out where that is, and you're like, Yeah, towards the end of the time, they never ate it all, so there'd be leftovers or whatever. Or if you know somebody there, you could probably sneak your way in anyway. But yeah, and if it was at a time when there was nothing I really wanted to do or whatever, I'd pull up a game of solitaire or something, which really felt like a waste. But honestly, playing these gotcha games feels kind of like a waste too. Well, not kind of, like a massive waste now, because it's sort of the main thing I do, and I don't find myself taking breaks from it as easily, because while I'm doing it, I'm flipping videos on and whatnot, just like I would when I'm working. But for whatever reason, it's much harder for me to say, oh, I did that task. I fought my arena battles. Let me go upstairs and play this. No, because everything, like, you have all kinds of stuff to do at once, and then it just sort of flows into each other. Sometimes work was that way too. Anyway, I don't know why I'm babbling about this shit. Probably because I got too much talking in yesterday. Let's try to do a Portuguese turn. Play the Joanna card. Now, there's always the option of just taking the victory point, right? And again, it's hard to tell how much is a victory point worth versus actually doing stuff, especially with the Baltronejos, where it's like, yeah, I'm going to get wiped out eventually. I'm going to get 4 CPs. I chose the empty spaces because I have more of them. And I ended up getting, I think, 3 units. That not there, that was already occupied. 3 units of militia. I rolled a lot of 4s, though, which I hate that design where it's like, oh, no 4, you re-roll. Do you really know the odds of, like, that well? Or are they really that key? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, that's going to give me points to be able to do stuff elsewhere. One thing I might be interested in doing is trying to cut off Talavera here, although it is like I could just march into there for what it's worth. If I'd gotten a guy back here, or here, I would do it. There's no question. But now it's going to cost me 2, or else leaving Toledo to take. And that would allow me to limit the resources the Spanish have. I have 3 extra command points there. I like to hold those in reserve. The problem, of course, is somebody might steal your last card, and then you just lose the resource. Much more likely is I forget that I have it there as I hit the last card. I don't know. Isabella outranks this guy. Alfonso is here. Oh, I haven't sieged this yet. Well, I probably want to siege that at least once. You're only allowed to siege once each impulse. But the siege succeeded. And then I moved into here. He withdrew. I spent a 3rd point to get control of it. Did not give myself the victory point yet. Stupid me. I'm going to have to figure out how to recount those at some point. I have 1 point left. I think that 1 point left, the best thing I can do is try my exploration, which, if I recall correctly, means coming over here. And let me think about what I'm doing. I do not have to do a navigation, but I do have to do a terra incognita at +2. And I get the good result. Successful exploration, and I get the cartography point. So that goes here. I catch up with the French. I get a marker here to tell me I know where this is. I do not have another movement point to go into here yet. Whether I want to or not is a good question, because I've got, so many of my guys stuck down there. Now, am I allowed? I don't have the third card. I think I'm allowed to play all 3 cards if I have them. Some power. Spain is not. They might be. I don't know. I don't know who's allowed to, who's not, but I think Portugal's allowed to. So that used up all my actions there. That's going to put it on a Spanish turn. I'm beginning to get worn out, and Spain still has a fucking huge hand. Do I have the guts to keep going? Or whatever it is? I don't know. I mean, it's not like fear guts. It's more like the intestinal fortitude to keep going type of guts, right? I forgot to mention is by taking this, I've cut his root off. He no longer has a root out of Talavera. Now, Isabella can fix that. The Crown of Aragon and get myself a mighty force here, but it doesn't give me any movement points. I don't have anything to extend the turn to do a quick surprise attack here, so the French are going to get a chance to build up if they can. They have the French home card they can do that with, which is similar to the Aragonese home card. Allows them to put troops. Now, the Aragonese is only home spaces. The French card is occupied spaces, which allows them to ship troops to the front, which is a big deal. Because France, I don't know if there's a good argument for why they should be allowed to, but France is much more expansionistic in this era, right? They're trying to do stuff in Italy, they're trying to do stuff in Spain, and it kind of makes sense for them to push deeper. Yeah, they aren't able to do their historical actions without that capacity, whereas the Spaniards mainly were defending territory. You know, their Italian campaigns were mainly centered either in, were centered in Naples. And it's later on when they start working more out of Milan, I think. It's indeed what the French do, the Rise of France card. One problem with that card is that they're not able to produce as many troops as the Spaniards are for their campaigns. And again, that kind of makes sense. But it would actually probably make more sense if either power could intervene further away at the reduced troops. So, I mean, if France is defending Roussillon, I actually think that they probably should be able, well, not Roussillon because it's not home, but if they're defending their own home territory, they should be able to get troops to the front more easily. But they're not. And again, it's sort of a scripting choice as opposed to making something, you know, more complicated. But there could be a general, like, honestly, most nations would be able to do a general call to arms, but most nations don't exist in this game. You got Portugal, which has a limited manpower, the Muslims, which have a limited manpower, and in some cases, especially with the Nazarids or Granada, you've got a thin overlay of, like, you know, Muslim rule with a population that's not mostly Muslim. In North Africa is more converted to Islam. So, you know, the only two real nation states are Spain and France, and Spain's not really one yet either in its own ways because it's divided. Do I want to keep going? I don't know. It's getting dark, man. I hate it. We're over the solstice at least. The Sultanate of Fez to get troops cheaper than I would otherwise, and in addition, that gave me some diplomatic actions. I took my point over with Venice, but I activated Genoa, and the French ended up winning Genoa, which gives them a victory point for the key. And now the Genoese are allied with France as well, which I'm helping them obtain Italy. It's not, it's not really hurting me, but it is raising the French victory points. And I hope I move the French and not the Portuguese. Again, these victory point tracks are really a pain in the ass. One thing I can do, though, is everything is regenerable. The points are all on the player cards or on the board. The only problem with it, of course, is the triangles that are there. That's going to put me on the Portuguese, and it kind of sucks, with that piracy not going as well as the last one did. I don't really have a lot. I have one card left, which I can hold. Now, if I play it for piracy and I'm successful and get the advantages that I wanted, that's great. But, and then I get a card anyway and I can hold it, which I probably want to try to do. But, yeah, I kind of don't. I just don't know, how much I want to rely on my luck there as to going into the next turn without a card. But I can generate myself victory points that way and everything, so I probably actually do want to go in that direction. Put this like this. Ooh, now I'm running into a bit of a problem. The slave trade card, which is really cool. Draw and add a random naval resource to one of your nows, and then 2 others directly to your player card. If I get nothing but CPs off of it, I don't have enough cards here. However, this allows me, and this is weird, I don't know if I can extend this. Take 2 CPs of action. When complete, draw a card from the deck. Now play a card from your hand as a brand new impulse. Ugh. I think I can play a resource to extend that. In which case, I do have an admin of 1. Let's say I play this. I take 2 CPs of actions. What was I going to do? It's not clear whether or not I can extend it, but extending it is the only way that I can make this card safe, like completely safe. So 2 CPs. One could be to land and create a settlement, in which case I don't have a resource on that settlement, and I can place a resource from the card, which is one way that a resource could happen. Of course, if it's 2 CPs, I could go down here. I've got a good ship, and I'm not going to have a good ship next turn unless I get, I don't know who it is, Da Gama, yeah. Not Albuquerque, not oh, what's his name? Now I can't remember his name. I had it in my mind before while I was talking, before I got to the point where I was, and now I don't. All right, let's sail in here and try again. See if we can cartography this. Now, one of the things I got to keep in mind is that, and yes, there's a little C-Zone 2 on here to remind me that I have this one, but it's not really easy. Okay. And we get back to this table. Like I said, there's too much shit on the board. This is Terra Incognita at +2. I get 10, 12, I'm lucky again. I get this. I get one of these for another victory point. And I can use my second action to put this up here, my second point, put a settlement there, which will take a Cape Town because, you know. That was my 2 CPs of action. Now, It doesn't say what's up in terms of being able to extend this impulse in between the cards. Like I said, this is the only time I can do it safely. So I'm going to spend this and get myself 3 more points, which I don't know what I'm going to do with, before I draw that card and take another impulse. Well, I'm still, and the stupid battery is not loading. Overly optimistic there. And there it starts blinking again. While the Beltranejos haven't surrendered, I can spend points on them. So I'm going to spend these 3 points, and I built myself some militia down here. Militia are kind of the thing you want to build, to be honest, because they're cheap. And yeah, you might not keep all of them, but far and away. Now, they don't give you the dice. Like, they give you the same number of dice, and they give you the same number of hit points you can take, but they don't hit on 4s as much. That's the disadvantage of them, but they're a really good deal. And here in a siege situation that might be happening, it seems really appropriate. Now, I could have marched into Guadalajara, but then I'm facing being too close to Isabella. Might give her an interception where she could hit me, and there's no real advantage to me being up there, except connecting this up, which you can make arguments for or against, I guess. Okay, now the Italian Renaissance goes to the French option. No, now I draw a card from the deck. I get a settlement surrenders. Okay, this is a fine card for me to hold on to, which means that I'll play this one, which allows me to draw and add a random naval resource to one of my nous or an empty settlement. I have an empty settlement now. I could have put it on the nous, but the thing with the nous is that, let's take a look at what I got. Okay, that's a cool one to have. The thing with the nous is that it expends him just like if he, formed a settlement. He's doing this trading operation and whatnot, and so it's just not as good. But now I get 2 other to my player card, and in the event that these are both command points, which they are, I've got me a problem. And this is why the sequencing, so the sequencing of this card is weird. I take 2 CPs of action. When complete, I draw a card from the deck. Now play a card as a brand new impulse. Well, each impulse I'm allowed to extend, but it's not clear whether I'm allowed to or not extend that impulse that this card created. After this impulse is complete, France has an option to decrease the loyalty. Well, if I'm not allowed to extend that first one, am I not allowed to extend the second one because France gets an action in it? And I'm just like, treat them completely as different impulses. The rules don't resolve this as far as I know. So I played this, but wait, the only way that I can use all my resources is to play both of these, is to play this and extend this one. I got to keep the Italian Renaissance to remind me of the French. I'll put some dice on them. Is to extend this resource and then play this card and extend that impulse as well. Otherwise, I lose those resources. I was hoping to get something like a victory point or a card or something that would help me better. But now I have 3 more that I had no idea I was going to have. Now, I don't know, and there's so much I don't know and can't remember and have to constantly look up, in addition to things like the battle dice, which you'd think I'd start to remember by now, but I know how tricky they are and that I fuck up, so I keep having to look them up. But what I don't know is if I build a nous for 2 and move here for 3, whether or not I can do a cartography roll. Normally I would do a terra incognita, but it's not. can I do a cartography and try to get this last point here? And do I want to? My nouses that are left are shit, aren't they? Yeah, one of them's okay, one of them's not great. Yeah, I probably want to do something else with those points, so I don't know. Cheap fortress out here at Cape Verde, and a militia here. But now, it's the French turn, where they get the option to decrease the loyalty of 3 noble houses by 1 level. If they do it, they gain a victory point from it. I think that's worth it, because upgrading those suckers is 1 point each. So basically what I'm saying is I can throw away 3 points off a card. More than that, I can go for the ones that are already at level 5. 1, 2. Those are the 2 that I have. And now hit another one. I don't know which. 3. And get a victory point. What does that victory point come out of? I don't know. Are there Italian Renaissance markers? I think there are. There we go. And get a victory point from that. 3 points for a victory point seems pretty cool to me. And that'll go there. And that finishes off their turn. That's going to be a Spanish turn. I'm going to call it here. Try to fix that again before I go down, because it's well past raid time. This is gone. I may have done those extensions incorrectly, but I don't know. There it is, I guess. It's New Year's Day, I know that. I guess that's Wednesday. Because I'm 1 day off, and I have to bring my garbage down. How to figure out what day of the week it is. I mean, I knew yesterday was Tuesday, but it's just not clear. I have to work back and think about having that knowledge. And I came up here in the early morning hours. I guess around 10:30, 11 a.m. No, and foggy as shit. To try to play the Spanish turn, and I just didn't have the energy, whatnot, and stayed up for a while longer, and then managed to get a partial sleep in. It's not going to be enough for the whole day, but we'll figure out what's going on. So yeah, it's time to do the Spaniard. Interesting question what to do. I don't have anything. I mean, Seat of the Empire I probably want to do, but that's a Castilian card. Allows me to push stuff into the Canaries, which I'd like to take, but it's sort of not really, a major concern at this point. I'm more concerned over there, but it also allows me to put more troops in play. But I have enough troops here with Isabel. I don't know if I want to move her, though. She is outgunned by Alfonso a little bit, or Afonso, but could handle either of these stacks pretty well. On the other hand, I kind of don't want to, let him just roam free. I could use the subordinate leader rules to pick this up and outgun him. So I think that's actually what I'm going to do. Another option is the Tanto Monta. Exchange it for the big old papal bull. And then I could steal a card from, say, France or Portugal. That seems like a lot to do. I have these peasant revolts in hand. They've come into somebody's hand, but now they're in Spain's hand, and I could kind of cut off the French But I don't see much use to that unless they're trying to siege me. If they win the battle over here, I think it's worth it. But right now, I do have things kind of blocked off. Ferdinand's got a big force, enough to handle the French. I think just holding them in place is good enough, and I'll concentrate on Castile there with the Seat of Empire card. And that is my second. Ooh, that'll eat my Tanto Monta. But I think I want to build up the forces rather than use the Tanto Monta. As I saw this VP marker that I've got here, this is a resource that I brought home. I was immediately worried because most resources get discarded, but the VP ones actually come out of the deck and end up on your player card, stuck there. There might have been some other way, although most of the VP markers have something that they say is related to them. You know, they're specific to a card or to a location or something like that, as opposed to just a pile of random VPs. And so there would be nothing that I knew of that I could allocate for these. But there might have been a pile that I'm not aware of. Anyway, onward. The French bottled up here. Rather than take any chances with that, I played this card, not for its event, which is kind of appealing. I mean, like the Papal Bulls event, I could take a card away from the Spaniards. But the other thing that it does, instead of giving me the ability to, you know, move or do some CPs, it gives a bonus over to the Muslims. Sure, I don't mind hitting the Spaniards, but I don't feel like they're particularly that far ahead or anything at this point in the game. So I just used this for points to deal with the foreign war, and I sent some more troops in there and then spent a point to launch an attack, and now I got to spend another point. That won't get rid of the card goes back in the deck until the second time, but there should be a Burgundian War counter somewhere in this pile. I don't know where. There it is. And you can get 2 victory points from that because the card can be played twice. And that's the way you can tell that the card's been played once, is that you already have the victory point for it. I guess on to the Muslims. Although I really should drag my garbage down. And wait. I still have pipe, I still have coffee. Muslims are down to 1 card within their admin rating. No resources on the thing. Nothing really fantastic that I absolutely want to do. I could do the piracy. If I get lucky, it works out pretty well. I'm going to pass right now because I can. And this may allow me a card later in the turn after I move forward and do piracy, because I can come back after I pass. And Portugal has sort of a similar situation. They really need to play this card because they have a resource they lose if they don't. But they're pretty sure that other people have cards they must play. Spain has 4 cards in hand. They've played all their home cards. They can only pass after they've gotten down to 2. Similarly, France has 3 cards in hand and has to play them all, or else throw them away if they want it to pass. I'm not even sure you're allowed to pass. I don't think you are allowed to pass unless you're under the admin limit. So, although I guess you could throw a card away or use it for CPs and not use the CPs, but yeah, we're in kind of a position where, yeah, we're low on cards, but we are allowed to have that flexibility to not play them right away. I think we'll both do that. Putting it back on the Spaniards. Neat. Using the combined leaders, you're allowed to use 2 leaders to command a force. Isabel swings down through here and hits Alfonso's space. I haven't fought the battle yet. Alfonso failed to withdraw, though, so he's in a bad shape. Now I have to do all the, you know, counting of how many dice I get and how many, you know, how many 4 hits I get. The force about twice the size with 2 leaders. I was able to defeat the Portuguese, capture them. I don't get a victory point for them because I already had that, but I spent my last point taking this. My intention had been to siege this. I forget about the cost to switch control of a space, but I'm not too unhappy because I really might want to deal with this instead and pin that force down. So I guess it's okay. But that's constantly an issue. You play a card, you count out, you think you do X because you're planning out what you do with the card, or at least it's an issue for me in CDGs. But in a game like this where everything's kind of flexible, right? In games like Clash of Monarchs, I'm activating a leader. That's all I'm doing if I'm correct about that one. I play a card to do, like the CPs are really pretty limited. I think I'm allowed to do like one thing with them. I can't split them up the way I can in the Here I Stand universe. But in the games that are like this, where I can do all kinds of different things, I count up and figure out, okay, do I want to, how many spaces do I want to move? Well, that was 1, 2. I fight the battle, which is free. Fighting the battle costs something in the Clash of Monarchs Clash of Sovereigns, but it costs it off the leader's initiative instead, right? Like, again, all these systems are a little different in a lot of different ways. That's one I played very recently. Now, all the things in the Here I Stand family share a bunch of tactical considerations. But then I count on 1, 2, and then to here to lay siege. But I forget that I have to spend a point to convert the area, even if I have a battle in the area. But if I had a siege in the area, that's how you convert the area. Of course, you're spending a point on siege, so it's not as troublesome. But there are some games where if you have a battle in an area and you win the battle, you get control of the area. Just so many, so many similarities and differences. And you could argue, okay, yeah, but hex map, area control games, same issue. Essentially, they're exactly the same kind of thing. The thing is, most area control games tend to be pretty simple, right? There's a few exceptions, EU, Empires in Arms, whatever. There's a few that are not trivial rules that involve the interception rolls and all kind of stuff like that, and that's fine. But these bubble maps that are very popular in CDGs seem to have taken it to another level beyond, what even like an Empires in Arms tries to do in its rules for tactical, or for movements on the board, as it were. And they just have so many different variations and whatnot that have blossomed out in that combination of the point-to-point bubble maps along with the CDG, whatever. And you can do bubble maps without CDGs, and you can do CDGs without bubble maps. They just tend to be wedded together, and the bubble map part definitely creates a certain thing. And the CDG part creates another thing, which is that I have to pre-plan all the points I'm going to use, and I have to do it correctly, right? And that's harder in this game. Anyway, that's the main thing I was trying to get at. But again, the rules also tend to games that look alike don't play alike. Now, if you look at your average hex game, most of them follow a pretty simple look on the terrain effects chart and see how much it costs you to move across the terrain feature. Most of them are that simple. And at a strategic level like this, most of the hex maps it's not a really appropriate mechanism for a game at this level, I fear. But the games that do have it like that, most hexes just cost you 1. There might be some special things like, a huge swamp or a mountain range or something that costs you more. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, when you look at all the hex-based games, very few of them have different rules. And when they do, it's usually some kind of key core mechanism, like rolling the dice for movement, you know, to get a certain number of movement points, or rolling the dice to see if you're allowed to move. But yeah, you know, reaction zones, stuff like that. But they tend to be such different things that they stick in your brain better than the CDGs, which there are so many different flavors and they're all very, very similar. So they're all gonna, or most of them are gonna have interception rules of some kind or another, but they're just different, you know? Most of them are gonna have withdrawal rules, but they're just a little different in each case. Again, the Here I Stand family, all the games in it kind of follow a lot of the same stuff. So it's not an issue of that. So where the hell am I? Well, the Spanish just got their turn and we're back to the French. There's some possibility of a naval combat that I win happening with the Spaniards. I think it's highly unlikely. So I played my boarding and capture, finished off the war in Burgundy. It took me both rolls, both points of that card to succeed, because all I had was militia with me, so I wasn't going to hit on 4s. And well, even though I rolled 5 dice, I didn't get any 5s or 6s to kill that one enemy piece. On the bright side, they did not kill any of mine. They got 2 dice each time, so you know, odds were in their favor as well for killing something. I had to look up where the Foreign War card returns to. It's to Paris in that case. Again, this could be, sure, it takes up more text, but in an event book, it could be in the event book. In a card with this much text in it, you don't want to add more. But, you know, and obviously, look, there's multiple foreign wars. I'm okay that they extracted a rule for them all. But again, those could each be handled separately in the event book. 3 events that work a certain way, that doesn't feel like repeating the text where you'd be looking would be that great a burden on the overhead of paper. But on the other hand, obviously you just can't do it on a card. And therefore it creates another special rule that you have to know for the game and that you will not remember. Siege to Toledo and shifts a bunch of forces around to lay siege down here in the Gran Canaria. Myself kind of forgetting, and this is more to do with, you know, again, the limitations of points, which works pretty well, combined with a map in a game that has your attentions all over the place. I was thinking about the Canaries recently, so I used my extra 3 points there on a 4-point card. But I had put some forces here. I went back to look, and you know, I'm in a fortress. I'm able to winter there. I don't have to withdraw from that fortress back to a home key or anything like that. So that's okay. It's also owned by me, actually, because, yeah, minor ally have keys that are flagged by you. So you can kind of withdraw to your minor allies. The rules say you can't, so it's kind of weird. No, it has to be a home key that you withdraw to. You can withdraw to the nearest fortified space that you own, though, which could have been this or something as well, if you're in an unfortified space. But I'm under no compulsion to get these guys into winter zones or anything, so I don't have to do anything with them this year, this turn, or yeah. Turns really should be years when they have a winter phase. It confuses me. All right, so that will put us back on the French. Basically, Portugal and Muslims are passing throughout until things get close. Things are close for Spain, so Portugal will have to play its card. The Muslims can make a choice either way. The French are not that close, so actually I could delay another turn. They're probably not going to throw a card away. French spend a big big card to move their Venetian forces down to siege Otranto. I got one card left, putting an additional problem on the Spanish holdings. It's not worth any victory points or anything, but it's a fortress that'll allow me to keep the Venetians there. And boy, do they look a lot like the Aragonese again. At least they say Venice on the bottom, though, right? Like, the problem I had was with, and it's hard to tell because these are Portuguese militia, but the Portuguese and these, which look a lot less alike, and again, this is actually militia, but under some lighting, they were looking worse to me. So I don't know. There's a lot of different colors in it. I'm not suggesting that the colors themselves are the problem. The problem is the number of major powers that don't have names on them. I see no reason why the nation's name shouldn't be on the counter. There is sort of, which is that you can distinguish that it's a major power more easily from a distance. And in particular, it focuses your energy on whether or not you're looking at a militia or a regular unit. Speaking of little rules that I forgot the limitation on extending an action. If the player used any card other than a home or mandatory event for its CP value during the first part of the impulse, remember which action he chose during card play, and those actions cost an additional CP. Yeah, that's going to be hard to remember. I'm pretty sure I violated that at some point. But there we have it. I'm considering the Portuguese here. First of all, what the hell they want to do. And unfortunately, I think it's the same impulse. You're extending the impulse. There's nothing that clearly says one way or another, in absolute terms, but it feels like it's the same impulse. Again, this is why that one card that had like take another impulse was important, right? That's not an extension of the impulse or whatever. But if I play this in a resource, what I can't do is move into an area and get a siege roll on it. So I can use this card for other purposes. One thing I don't want to do is build another now. My odds are not good on getting a decent one. Although, I could just move them here and get a settlement there. Might not be such a terrible idea. Expand my holdings even further. Oh, keeping that limitation in mind, I had to go look up the control rules. I built myself 4 militia up here at Placenta with the first 4 points. Now I can't build more units without paying too much for them. So my 3 command points, I used 1 to grab control of Talavera. That's going to take potentially cards away from the Spaniards because they don't control that space. Now they're going to be able to control it back, so it doesn't really help. And then the 2 remaining points, I built myself a crappy Naus that I'm not going to be able to use, but that's okay. Because I won't have any points this turn. But because I can't siege or anything, I feel like, yeah, I gotta figure out what the hell I can do. And unlike France, who has this sort of point pool over here that they can just dump into, there's not a lot I can do with the Portuguese. That's exciting. And in a way, Spain has sort of a point pool here that I can play around in, right? But Portugal just doesn't have a hell of a lot. I could do things on this front, but with no more cards remaining, I'm not going to change too much. And with fortifications around most of the areas that I'm in. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many choices I had. Militia seems safe because they're in a key. And I don't want to pay, I don't want to get half the troops to get regulars. They're not that worth it, especially when I'm low on troops. You have to keep in consideration, though, if I have a large, low-quality army, my force pool gets reduced, and I can't build good stuff, and I can't remove the shit to build good stuff. it's something to keep in mind. It's not a problem when you're at war. When you're at war, throwing militia out is the best thing. Now, this is the cool thing about the Spanish and French cards. They give regulars. Their armies are more modern, essentially. Maybe the Muslims have one too. The Portuguese do not have a regular army card that I'm aware of. These things give militia, you know, just not terribly useful, or not as impressive. They're still useful because militia are almost as good as regulars in this game, but a little worse in combat. They don't produce your four rolls. But a lot, you know, if you already have regulars, you don't need to build more. And like Cav is a better buy in that case. And then also, well, maybe not. Yeah, what else? Yeah, I mean, sure, they might melt away, but the chances are pretty low even if you don't protect them. That's on to the Spaniards. Spain fired off their first point on this card to conduct the siege. Didn't get a great roll. Played the Master of Siege Artillery. Missed by 1. Got an okay roll on that. Still below average. So Toledo does not fall. The odds were very high in favor of it falling for me. And I'm out of cards at this point. Oh, my big admin rating of 2 gone. But, you know, I wanted to turn that around, right? And plus, if I did, I could take that more easily. I'm not sure. Got to look up the control rules again to see if I can do it from a space I'm besieging. And now I have like 4 points to fuck around with. I've got this siege to take care of too. Ah, fuck me. The Portuguese couldn't have taken control of this. I'm leaving it alone because I don't know what else, you know, they could have moved in there, and I don't know whether or not interceptions work and everything. The tangle of the rules on these, sort of the geometry of the situation becomes just so fucking annoying, the complexity. You know, if I wanted to play a game that had that kind of geometric complexity, I would play one with much, much simpler sets of rules in it. But anyway, what happened was I looked here, quickly looked under unfortified space, read, didn't see anything that required, that didn't allow an opponent to be adjacent. Well, then in this next one, simple space, which this actually was, and I knew that, the control simple space action is used, which control unfortified space there doesn't actually comport with what's here. But somewhere deeper in that, not in the dots like this is, it goes into land units controlled by the active player must be adjacent to the space with no enemy land units adjacent. I'm going to do a hand-wavy explanation of why it's okay, even though it's not okay by the rules, which is that these guys are besieging, so maybe they couldn't really interfere as easily. Fuck it. I'm good with this. The Portuguese might have been able to move into that space and drawn the siege off with, you know. I just don't know. So tied up in that I forgot about what I did here, which was a successful siege with the point that I used up there. I've got 3 more points left with the Spaniards. This is their end of their card play. France is going to have 1 card which they must play, and then the Muslims will get the last action and can do a piracy thing over here with their card that'll give them bonuses, but that might give them a card. But that puts me in this, what do I do with the remaining 3 points for the Spaniards? And I don't know. Tell you what, since I cheated with the Portuguese, I will cheat with the Spaniards as well. That seems fair. No more of that hand-wavy argument. But I'll try to remember that one rule there. But now that leaves me with 2 points. And I'm really having trouble finding, you know, what I want to do with these points. I guess I can just build troops. Could have built a fortress with 3, but I don't want to build a fucking fortress. At this point in the game, or in the turn, it's very hard to do anything. For the same reason like the Portuguese couldn't lay sieges and whatnot. And it feels weird because it's such an abstract game that, like, I don't know. It just feels like the amount of time covered by each card is enough that a siege could be reasonably accomplished within it. But I don't know what to do. Obviously, it does end up creating, more opportunity for planning and whatnot to get in your way and fuck you over. Succeed in their siege of Otranto? Well, pretty likely. There were no defensive units there. For the Muslims, I have an interesting card. 3 points. That would allow me to move here for a point and conduct piracy for 2, right? I think piracy is 2. Can't remember. Yeah. Which would be great. I can move other things around, but no big deal there. However, the Sea Dog, return all your naval units on the turn track to your force tool. Then take 2 CP of actions and 2 naval moves in any order you desire. I can't do cartography and stuff on the first couple turns of the game, so I'm going to ignore that part. This is worth doing. Now, these are meant to indicate stuff that comes in later. They're not stuff that's dead, so I got to be careful about that. I'm annotating reinforcements the same way as I annotate lost units, but that's somewhat problematic because cards might allow you to pull things off the board. I don't think I have anything lost there. Oh yeah, I do. It doesn't really make a damn bit of difference because I'm not going to build that. I need the 2 CPs for... but this gives me an extra naval move. It actually works out about the same. So I can sail into here with one of the 2 naval moves. The rest of my fleet can't really do a damn thing. And now I initiate piracy. And we look up the piracy rules again because we can't remember because there's so many different subsystems in this game. Again, Here I Stand has a combat subsystem basically, and I'm trying to remember. I think there's something with exploration and whatnot, but I think it's pretty simple. And the religious subsystem, right? Like I kind of feel like each player needs to know one of those. The papacy actually can like field troops and do stuff, and so can the Protestants, but they're really not that focused on it. And it certainly doesn't have this pile of special rules, which is just another thing. So what am I looking up? I'm looking for piracy, which I think is under the naval movement rules. There we go. Piracy on the main map. So, yeah, I think there's no defense here. That's the big deal. Roll again. Targeted power adds up dice. 2 dice for each naval unit, 1 die for each naval unit, 1 die for each fortress. None of those count, which means there's no dice I can roll against the pirates. Now I add up the piracy dice, and I have 2 naval units in there, so I get 2 dice as long as there's 2 locations there, which there are. And 5s and 6s are hits. And I have another naval move if I wanted it. I get no rewards, which sucks, because I used up my last card. And that puts us to the end of the action phase, to the winter phase, and that is one hell of a good place to break. But yeah, we made it through the turn on 1 video for, I mean, I don't know how long that video is, so This is about as clear as it gets. We're still going to have fog around and rainy and all that. But, so first thing, resolve mandatory events. Let's look at the chart. Okay. Muley Hassan seizes Zahara, Charles VIII, King of France, and Joia, I don't know how to pronounce it, Joao, the second King of Portugal. Okay. So I will dig those up and do them in order. So this one, I don't mind the fact that somebody was able to manipulate it to prevent it from happening temporarily. But anyway, Nasrid takes control of Zahara and gets 1 victory point. That's actually 2, and I've recorded them on the board, 1 for this and 1 for the strategic space itself. Place 4 Nasrid regulars reserved for this event. Okay. I don't think I had any reserved for this event, but that's okay. I didn't use them all up. I don't remember anything that told me in the instructions to set aside for, but they don't have, you know, like the swords that mark them or anything. In Zahara. Easy enough. Let's keep reading. If there are Spanish units there, eliminate them. Bad idea to try to defend that. Would be useful to know, right? Again, I'm not thrilled with have to know the cards to play effectively, but I'm ignoring that aspect. Like the Reconquista of Granada begins. There's now a state of war between the Nazarids and Spanish for the remainder of the game. And there we go. And yeah, I saw that NA there. That should have stopped me. And this is gone from the game. Oops. Of course, all the mandatories are going to get separated out. But, you know, when I put it away, I got to sort through the cards anyway and do all kind of stuff. Okay. Charles VIII, King of France. Louis dies. Place this card as ruler on France. Place the Charles VIII leader on the same space as Louis XI. And then remove Louis from the game. Oh, really? Louis XI had a counter on the board? Well, fuck me. So the other side of that. I'm going to look in the setup rules and see how I missed that. Okay, we go through here. Not here. I don't see it here. See Roger. Tremoy. This is where I'd expect it. I don't see it there. Cards dealt from the deck. Variable number for the ruler after turn 1. Cards are drawn. War against Burgundy. Place the form. Ah! So this is what I missed. This is what the viewer was catching me on. Was that the War of Burgundy was supposed to start the game in that place. And that's where Louis was, and I don't know why I just didn't notice it. Oh well. Let's put Charles here. You know, it's an alternate history game anyway, right? If you know, EU the same way. So, not too terrible. We started at a point, you know, we're imagining a slightly different thing. And that's exactly how I would play these kind of mistakes in EU. Well, I apologize to the person who I thought saw something wrong. What happened is, this is just me not being able to follow, you know, receive during card draw phase. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think I just wasn't paying enough attention there. And there might be other stuff like that that I didn't pay attention to because it's not supposed to happen during setup. If it had been during setup, it would have been easier, but instead I went to the card draw phase, and if there were any other special things listed in the card draw phase, I did not find them because they pretty much are just the base rules. That's how I missed that. Cool. Okay. Charisma 2 plus consolidated monarch power. That's going to weaken our charisma here. And an admin rating of 2, which is powerful compared to what we had. What is that -1 card from? Is that from Burgundy? I think so. Oh, didn't I throw Burgundy away? No, it's back in the deck. Now I have to find it. Shit. In here. Well, we're in a different world where this would have been the second Burgundy card if I had fought the first one, but whatever. Yeah, that's the -1 card, which just goes away. It doesn't tell you to remove that -1 card on here, does it? Place a -1 card marker while the war continues. Yeah, it kind of does. But here's the thing. I looked down at the red deck, remove when the war is completed for a second time, but there's nothing about removing the -1 card. No reminder of that. So I'm like, oh, the event's gone. I don't have to worry about it, but it can leave collateral effects that I wouldn't have noticed. All right, that's Charles. And now we go to guy whose name I can never pronounce, Joao. Alfonso dies and his son Joao succeeds him. Place this card as ruler on the Portuguese card. Place the Braganza ruler in the same space as Alfonso and remove Alfonso from the game. I'm guessing Braganza... Okay, first of all, this takes Alfonso away from the Spanish, and I'm guessing Braganza is here. I'm going to get him next turn at this point because he doesn't go into jail. That's going to give me a charisma of 5, which is the same as what I had before, an admin of 2, which is a little better, and not much else. Good enough. Okay, we did the mandatory events. We found out the weird thing about the Burgundy card having to be played at the beginning of the game, and I can see why I did not get it. You know what? Chicken butt. Those stupid fucking during the card draw phase. Everything else, I didn't have to look in the scenario book. And it didn't say something in the rules, as far as I know, under card draw phase. Let's take a look. Where is it? Card draw phase. It does not say turn 1 special rules, look in the scenario book to see what you get in the card draw phase. It does not say that. And it is perfectly reasonable to say, I'm playing this. You know, I do the setup that they tell me to set up. They say to do something during the card draw phase, which is, yes, the first phase, but it's not part of the initial setup. And then if I do look at some of the other powers, it's just telling me what I could get from here. I think France is the only exception. We'll find out. Maybe there are others. All right. I'm pretty pissed about that. Military order reduction, of course, piracy and Nazrid spaces that have lost their home characteristic. Neither of those are under play right now. Discard unused resources. Did any... Oh, fuck! I knew this would happen. My big fucking 5 points are getting eaten because I can't pay attention. All right. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I played one of the last cards in the game. Not the very last. The Muslims did that. but I'm going to use that 5 points. It's not going to have much effect. I did a siege and a move. I didn't build any troops. I'm going to just build me a shit ton of militia. Okay, now we play the change game, which I fucking hate. I guess it's the same either way, but there aren't going to be a lot of 6s around. So I'll do this. Yeah. All right. Now, I may have some special options that I don't remember, right? Like there's special rules for the country, and they're not listed in here as choices to do. I know France has some interesting choices that are going on right now having to do with these treaties and everything. I know that enough to think maybe it has an effect now, and so let's look that up and see if that is the case. I doubt it. But this is the kind of shit that pisses me off. What about these treaties? Well, I can't do Etaples. That's only by a mandatory event required next turn. Sendless with Maximilian, I could do this at any time using an extension or announcing in the diplomacy. If France is not in a foreign war with Burgundy or Brittany, I ended the foreign war. It's been played at least once. I didn't have any cards or resources. I did get to extend it, but I didn't have the cards or resources, so I'm not able to cancel that one out. I would have had to remember at the time, which good luck fucking remembering all your special rules. Treaty of Barcelona, this is the one I was particularly worried about. Extending an impulse in any action phase, I did that. And announcing it in diplomacy. In these cases, I have to cede all of Roussillon, which I don't want to do. Treaty of Barcelona, I did not play that, or nobody did. During the French player's spring deployment, the French player can have the Spanish do some stuff. So spring deployment is the next time that I get to make the choice on this. But again, there was something where by extending an action, I triggered a capability that is not spelled out anywhere that I know of. Maybe it's in some tiny words in here, but I don't even see it. So yeah, this is problematic. Even if it was tiny words on there, I would not see them. If it was on another play aid, I would not see it. It's too much burden going on, okay? If I had some kind of event card or status card that gave me the information that I needed, that would be cool. And putting a couple of extra cards in play. Now, would it be enough for me? Probably not. Again, I looked to the EU POP situation, which had tons of these kind of status cards out there, and I could not keep track of them all. It's just a hard way. It's a hard way to handle things. All kinds of special cases are a real problem. If you have to remember just a couple special cases each turn, that's something different. But it feels to me like there are all of these that kind of feel like they're in play for the entirety of the game. And there's a whole bunch of them. And some of them aren't actually in play, but you don't know that they're not in play because they're just embedded in the rules instead of some kind of reminder or something. But it would really have to be a flashing light to get my attention with all the complexity of game state that's out here. Just like an EU POP, there were plenty of things out there that I would fuck up. But at least I could look at it and say it's my mistake. Here, I'm like, nobody can be expected to remember all this shit. Nobody. Okay. Remove lone naval, check for deaths from plague, resolve the return of noble militia to their homes. Okay, unfortunately no rule is given there. It is in the winter phase, but I don't know where the winter phase is in the numbering system, so I have to flip around. It's probably after naval combat and piracy. Okay, that's after, there we go. Okay, so here, what do they tell me? Well, now They tell me something different. Return land units home. That's not this. That's returning to fortified spaces underneath it. Including checks for plague and disbanding of militia. And that tells me the rules reference, which should be on the fucking sequence of play. I'm going to write it in. Doing stuff like this because my shaky hands aren't very readable. I'm only going to mark up this one sequence of play. But honestly, you know, this should just be fucking printed on here, right? Somebody should have looked at these components in all the play tests and everything and said, you know what? If they did any blind testing, someone like me would have written that down and sent it to them or whatever. You know, someone, if they do blind testing as opposed to just, and I really suspect that GMT does not do blind testing at all. What they do is they get a group, and here it was a huge group of play testers, which led me to hope that there was a blind testing round where they sent it to people who were not already involved in play testing during development, with the almost finished product to come back. Because I cannot imagine that someone would not say that, you know, if you sent this out to like 4 groups or something, or even just 4 people playing at solitaire, that they would not say, yeah, you know, you should have more references. And not just some, in the rules they should say you should have more. And if you had somebody who was very careful the way I was when I was doing copy editing and stuff, but you know, that was kind of a job. I understand that gameplay testers aren't really doing a job, but somebody certainly should say, on the play aid, you fucking need the rules references. Okay. So let's find 18.5 and see what we're doing. By the way, this also means, and this is kind of again, a personal aside, whatever. I had this box of like Sharpies and some other interesting things. And it lives in like one of 2 places. A lot of my stuff does that, right? I have a cabinet downstairs, built in, whatever, where I keep a lot of junk. And that box stays there. Conceivably, it could also be, you know, in my bedroom, office, whatever. I have some shelves there, but it hasn't been there in a long time. And I have up here where I tend to mark it. I also might bring it all the way down the basement to make corrections, like I think I did with Border Reavers or whatever when I was playing that. So like, these things move around, and I'm not absolute, like, I have a tendency to just leave things where they would be useful, like my clothes on the floor and stuff like that. all the information that, like, and this is a matter of me just not dealing with it, but I have all these papers down there. That's all shit for like dealing with the inheritance that I should be pursuing. You know, right now it's just money in Portugal. I know I'm not going to do a damn thing with it, but I'm unwilling to just pack it away and say I'm not. And it's been like 4 years that I've taken a couple of like rudimentary steps, and then I'm like, yeah, fuck it. But I mean, I did stuff like paying to another $25 or whatever to get another death certificate, because that was one of the steps I needed to do. But like, I emailed the guy 4 years ago and he gave me those things, and now I'm like, all right, great, I have to start all over and try to find a contact for this and whatever. And it's just, it's like a year's worth of life, a year's worth of money for life, right? You know, for one year of my life that would be extended. And I'm just like, I might die this year. Fuck it. I hope I do. Anyway, now after we've defaced this, because they couldn't actually put it in printing, we're looking for the rule. Yes, yes. Okay. And now here, they have the check death for plague and the other things. So the rule book is right. This is kind of not right. And that may be why they didn't put rules references in. But the militia. Okay, militia in Canary Islands on a foreign war or in formation with a leader or in a home key do not disband. Everything else I roll a die for. I roll a die for all the militia, and each one got, and I get to select militia to get rid of. And again, I got to read that every time, you know, because it's not something that's regularly happening. It's happening every turn, but it's not going to stick because there's so much else I have to hold in my head with this game. This is the real disadvantage of militia, right? It turns out I've been very sloppy with my Portuguese. So I've got like 4 militia here. These don't count because they're in a home key. These don't count because they're with a leader. 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 7. Shit. Okay. So I want to just keep 2. It's not a bad number. Okay. So none disappeared on me. That's awesome. Okay. But just to give you an example, and I'll do this with each country, but yeah, you got to hunt around, look on the board. You might have stuff if you're like, you know, Spain, well, Aragon in particular. You got stuff over here in Naples as well as where you'd expect it to be. Portugal feels relatively easier, although, yeah, it is about as different, you know, North Africa versus Naples. But at least this is in my eye line. This is not. And I started with Portugal instead of the Muslims first. But now I'm on the Spaniards. And I come to, hey, rules question time. Toro. I'm not sure if that's a home key or not for Spain. So now I'm going to have to go find rules to figure that out. Because, again, special rules for all kinds of shit, right? Actually not sure where to find it, to tell you the truth. Is it in the Beltranejos rules? Is it in the Castile rules? Is it in the map rules? I'm going to have to search quite a bit to find this, I'm fearing. And again, annoyances of the game. I really don't know. Like Castile in particular, well, no, Spain in particular has weird what are home keys and what are not. Home keys for everyone else are pretty easy, to tell you the truth. They've got these on them. Portugal home keys. North Africa home keys. France not so much, but France doesn't have divided spaces. Although it may be possible that there's something that switches. I don't know. I want to say, and this may help me, maybe if I go back to Virgin Queen and play it this way. I know I sound like I'm griping and complaining. And I am. That's what I do. But I'm a lot happier facing this game, not treating it like a CDG, which I expect to be competitive and with playability in mind, trying to offload a lot of the rules, dross and whatnot onto cards to make the game easier to deal with. I'm a lot happier facing this the way I faced EU to begin with, which is sort of a, screw it, if I make a mistake, that's too bad, like the Burgundy card, I'm just going to leave it out there. If I can correct it, fine, whatever. Now, I'm not in the state of existence that I was in when I first got EU, nor does the CDG, pulsed play style, whatever, appeal to me in the same sort of way, appeal to my playing style in the same sort of way. So I'm not going to like it as much, but as long as I'm willing to say, this is not like CD, you know, this is lost whatever Here I Stand had, which was this beautiful sort of mix of being able to still be a competitive and playable game, right? And I think Virgin Queen was already over that limit for me, obviously. And has moved into a realm that I don't expect to be in with these more modern style designs. It's moving more into that EU realm. I would far rather not have these the card-driven type design for a game that I have to fiddle around with, that I'm gonna fuck up shit this much with. I expect these more modern designs, for whatever reason, to be, well, to be more accessible and accessible to the competitive player. And I look at them that way, and I try to play them that way so that I can, try to play more easily. Well, as long as I put that aside, I'm okay. So I found where the rule is. It was the second place I looked. The first place I looked was in the map section, and that sent me to the reference that I saw, which is 22.1, surrender of a major power. Not one of the things I thought about, but there was a reference to send me there at the first place I looked, which means it's pretty cool. And what I see there is the Beltranejos faction ceases to exist. Where is it? All Beltranejos home spaces without control markers are now considered Castilian home spaces and are controlled by Castile. Is that just? Yeah, I'm kind of worried whether that's just a notational difference. So I think I'm going to have to keep looking, because I've got the worry that this is both a Spanish and Beltranejos home space. I mean, it makes sense. It's part of Castile, right? Fortunately, I can't find anything in the Castile rules that refer to this. We could look at the Beltranejos rules. Doesn't really tell me what is and isn't a home space. It tells me what changes, and that might give me a hint. But yeah, I'm not finding a place that tells me home keys, and if I recall properly, there is no index. There's, I don't think there's one in here either. Nope. Lots of neat historical stuff. But they did not bother to make an index. I think they're just Beltranejos home spaces. But again, it's fucked up, man. It's fucked up, right? Where was it that, where did I find this? Oh, home spaces. Spaces that are, here we go. Okay, not really helpful. So Castile color is there, but so is the Beltranejos color. And what I was looking at was keys. A key is a fortified space. If a player loses all keys for any of the powerhouses, it surrenders. If Catalonia, Nazareth, Kingdom of Granada, or Beltranejos surrender, see special rules in 22.1. I'm not sure that there's anywhere that tells me that those are only Beltranejos home spaces or if they're both. Go back to 22.1, try to parse this out, because it's the only rules reference I have. And I looked at the major powers. And I mean, what it says is, all Beltranejos home spaces without controlled markers are now considered Castilian home spaces and controlled by Castile. I think they are not Castilian home spaces. I think that fits in, better with the Nazareth, which are written the same way. Catalonia, a little harder to say. Actually doesn't have any effect on it. So now this is weird, right? For Catalonia, there is nothing that changes the status, that talks about the status of these home spaces. So now I'm going to look at Catalonia's rules to try to figure out what the situation with the Castilian rules is, right? Aragon does not tell me anything about home spaces in their special rules. Like, the problem for me is that there is an argument to be made either way. There's not much of an argument to be made that, in fact, the Nazrid home spaces, I think, well, other than Zahara, which may be a home space to both too. I don't know. I just don't fucking know. Let's look at Catalan. Do they talk about spaces? Split home spaces. Many home spaces near Barcelona are split home spaces with two colors. When Catalan gets control, there's no need. When Spain controls them, there's Spanish control. If a mixed formation. Okay, so I think, now this is interesting, because instead of putting it in the Catalonia rules, like is the case with the Nazrid and Beltranejos, it is here. Once the Principality of Catalonia is surrendered, it does not return to play, and these split home spaces are considered Aragonese. It feels to me like this is a home space for both, for the Catalan. And it's very clearly spelled out there. But if I look at Beltranejos, I don't think I saw that. I'm looking for something about Beltranejos home spaces, right? It's units and home card, immediate effects, after the peace. I don't see anything about Beltranejos home spaces as split spaces. You know what? I'm going to say if it's a split space, it's a home space for both. I just don't know. I don't know. The fact that it's specifically called out for the Catalonians is actually kind of disturbing to me towards that, but I think that's what they actually mean. And I have no fucking clue. Great. Net effect of that is none of the Spaniards nor the French had to roll. The Muslims had to roll for 2 units here. They lost one of them. And now we keep going. Leaders and units returned to fortified spaces. See Moriscos. Yeah, there are no Moriscos, so I'm not going to see that. But I'm guessing 18.5 here applies, so I go back there because it was all the same rule, right? Land units returning home, all this shit. And we kind of know how this works. Special rule. Didn't notice this one. I was all worried about having to siege here in the Canaries. Land units returning home. Land units in the Canaries may remain there if desired, even in non-controlled spaces. Wow. Let's put stupid special rules in play everywhere we possibly can. You know, it's okay, but maybe I wouldn't have been in as much of a hurry. Maybe I would have done something else with my points if I knew better. That kind of special rule reminds me of the kind of shit that I would pull out of my ass in games of Starfleet battles. One of the few games that was really complex that I played in a very competitive sort of way, right? So I would during my opponent's turn, I would be reading the rules constantly. Even though I knew the game very, very well, I would be constantly looking up special cases and stuff, see if I could pull something off, do something weird with a wild weasel that nobody knew, or something else with shuttles, or tractor beams or transporters or something like that they just totally weren't expecting, and that would throw them completely off shit that is just part of the game, and is kind of always available, but never used. And this is what kind of, I feel like somebody who knows that might be like able to pull off this little advantage by constantly having the rules in front of them, reading them as they play. I enjoyed my SFB playing, but that was a game where I generally didn't have to do much while my opponent is like working his turn. Or it was very pulsed, so I'm not going to say that, but like I don't know. I'm trying to think what the situation was. I guess I would just pause during my own turn and read the rules because yeah, you really kind of had to. You really had to be paying attention all the time. I just remember doing all kind of weird shit in that game and pulling crap out of my ass and like maybe preparing stuff before a battle or whatever as well. But yeah, it was pulling special cases out to get yourself this tiny little advantage. And here, I just don't know. I don't know who would have this in mind all the time when it's just another special rule. Okay, where the hell am I? I don't know. And for whatever it's worth, my mind put the Portuguese here in Quetta. Part of it is I think Afonso had special rules where he could operate with the Beltranejos units. Joao does not, so I'm looking to reopen the war against the Muslims again over here. That might not be a great idea, but I can always do a spring redeployment, and I can operate in Beltranejos territory. I just don't think I can command their units with him. And my forces for the Beltranejos mainly moved here to Cordoba. Isabel backed away from her siege. Now, Cordoba is Portuguese already. Isabel backed away from her siege to Segovia. I could have actually put a unit here to defend this, but I didn't. So, you know, do I need Jerez? Why don't I move more units forward as well? This guy has more than he can carry already. That's the one problem with all that. But I didn't have a way. I don't have a way of crossing from here to there. I would have been able to come from here, and this is a key. Oh wait, no, I couldn't come from here. I couldn't leave here. He's still there. I think this is like this, to be honest. I don't know. Anyway, certainly that would be legal. Ferdinand pulled back and took some of his forces in. I could have probably taken these as well. Guess I will. I'm not really worried about anything attacking me here. It's the French I'm worried about. So that's 2 strength points of regulars, 4 strength points of regulars. I should be able to get a 6 there. I'm trying to fix things on the fly as you know, I'm like, you know, I didn't really need this. Tremoille pulled back, sent excess troops up to the king. I don't know what I'm going to do with the king. France really wants to come to peace with the Spaniards and hold Roussillon. They don't want to give it up. That's the problem there. The Venetians are still down here, and nothing too exciting happened anywhere else. The Muslims pulling back to here, you know, part of my worry is that the Muslims didn't have anything to do with their North Africans, so they may want to attack. And that's going to put me to get extra units. When are the navies going to move? Over here. Okay. Each major power adds 1 regular unit to a controlled home key. Berbers can receive a corsair if they control Algiers. Problem where I'm not familiar enough with the core sequence. And again, part of that's because I'm trying to hold all the fucking special rules in my head at the same time. So like, you know, the Muslims probably would have sent and I may do this, a militia. So I built a unit in Marrakesh. Well, I would actually have rather, because I'm allowed to do a regular, right? I would have rather split this into 2 militia, one here, one in Marrakesh, because I don't really need to defend Marrakesh terribly well, but I'd rather have regulars here, and that'll give me another regular, so I go up to 4. So I'm having to do corrections like this in real time because I just know I don't know the rules well enough anymore. And like, I should be able to hold the base of the sequence of play and what's going on, but these things are just not sticking in my head very well. These guys couldn't leave because I think, I didn't want to look it up. Oh no, this is Portuguese controlled. I could have gotten out of here. Oh fuck, I probably want them out of there. Like, I don't mind one being there, but I don't want to defend that too heavily. I couldn't tell was that these are Portuguese fleets, which is pretty damn stupid. But again, I'm getting so flustered by, you know, the overload overall that even very simple things like being able to tell who controls the sea is beyond my capabilities. Like the long sequence of play that I can't keep in head, all the ships have returned to ports, then the resources return now, or captured, whatever. The Muslim ones were able to be obtained. They got a couple of militia and a victory point. The Portuguese, on the other hand, failed and rolled shitty on both their resources and lost them both. So, the expansion not going well for me. Resolve French commercial relations, the Mesta, and control of Ragusa. Okay, the Mesta are not fucked. They can slip out this way. And the only thing they have to worry about is what ports they can get to. I'll just do the die rolls, whatever. Those resources, I don't think the Mesta got anything, I don't know. I can't remember now. I don't think they got a successful roll. The French got a successful roll for their med trade. They have lots of bonuses there. They got a couple militia from that. I screwed up and threw all the resources in here before I drew one. Minor issue compared to some of the other stuff. End major power alliances. I don't think there are any left. Remove piracy markers. And diplomacy reset and removal of -1 admins. I don't think anybody had a -1 admin on them. What did I say? Diplomacy reset. That's this. This is the Genoa ones. Everything else stays where it is. It's only if they drop to here. If they get resolved with the bonuses, you lose your bonuses is basically what happens. But you can build them up over turns. That is going to get me to marriage resolution. Ouch. That hurt. This is nice heavy steel. Hit my toenail. Victory. Check for surrender of Catalonia, Beltranajos, or Nazareth. None of them are happening. Beltranejos still have a home key or two. Just one. They lost this one. Wait, Toledo? They got 2. Oh no, Seville's not one, but this is. Okay, 2. French victory points for Lord of Italy. Okay. That's one we have to look up. I don't think it's on here, although I find information written in italics, which is hard for me to pay attention to. What are we on? Lord of Italy. That's going to be under the French special rules, I say. Don't really have to, like, it's under rule 20.7, but instead of going to 20.7.1.2.3, they just have it all, so like, you know, it's 2 pages, 2.5 pages of rules is labeled as 20.7. Okay, some people think the SPI rules go overboard. Certainly, I think the Avalon Hill ones do a little bit in terms of the numbering system. Yaquinto is horrible. You can overnumber things, but GMT just really has a habit of not putting enough numbers in. Each one of these should have its own number. Control out of 5 of 8. Let's see what they are. Naples do not have. Rome I have. Ravenna. Yes. Milan, no. Genoa, yes. Venice, yes. Florence, no. Otranto, yes. I have 5 out of the 8. I get a victory point for being Lord of Italy. Didn't know this was worth one. There are these little squares, but that's not what tells you which ones are which. There's no way I can really record this, like what places are of importance, because it's not one city. Most of the places where I get those, it's one city. So there go the French leaping ahead to 24. It is not turn 7, so I don't read the rest. No one won. We go to another turn, and we load this up, and damn, this is fatiguing. Again, I'm having some fun. There's no question of that. I'm enjoying this more than I remember enjoying Virgin Queen. Maybe that'll change when I get to the marriages, because I remember the marriages pissing me off in Virgin Queen. But, you know, I feel like they're kind of like the French tracks here. They're kind of like the papal art in Here I Stand. It's just sort of this one, it's one little special thing that I don't think is going to overburden me too much. And again, maybe if I approach Virgin Queen with the mindset not of it being a competitive modern style CDG, but more of a less well designed to my tastes type of EU type game where there's just this huge overburden of stuff, I will be able to enjoy it more. I did enjoy EU Pop. That had a lot of game state that I had to pay attention to. And so far, I'm having kind of a good time with this. Although, EU Pop and this, I'm having a harder time seeing the narrative, which is an important factor to my enjoyment, than I would in a game like EU. And than I would in a game like Here I Stand. But Here I Stand was a lot simpler. There's a lot less busyness going on in it. Oh, what is the narrative for this turn? Good question. Maybe I'll come back on the next video and tell you.